Call this Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, Almont Board of Education work session into order at 6 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Burrow. Roll call, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Burns? Present. Mr. Terrius?
Here.
Mr. Eckert? Present. Mr. Burrow? Here. Ms. Frederickson?
Here.
Mr. Wade? Here. Mrs. Smith?
Here.
All set?
Thank you. Are there any adoptions of the agenda for additions? We're all set? And deletion? No. Perfect. At this time, there's questions and comments from the audience pertaining to anything that is on the agenda only. Does anybody in the audience have to recommend? Please state your name.
Is there a microphone?
Sorry.
Amy Bowers. Hi. Okay, I prepared a little statement here.
There is a 3-minute time. Got it?
Don't want to do that. All right. Hi, my name is Amy Bowers. I currently have 3 kids in the district, 1 in each school at this point. I've been on the PTA board for 6 years now and live across the street from the high school, so I'm very involved with the school. Our family started back in Orchard Primary 11 years ago when my 10th grader now started kindergarten. Sorry. The fact that we are still talking about whether we need a dean of students at the elementary is absurd to me. No other principal in this district has had to go without direct support like this position has. Almont has routinely left OP on the back burner, and this could be the year that changes. Studies show that younger and younger children need intervention, whether it's directly from their teacher, a school counselor, or the principal. The behavior issues are starting younger. We have interventionists at the school, however, it's not enough, and it's not on par with other schools in our area of the same size. Many of you new board members have OP students. This is my family's last year at OP. I'm still fighting for the school and its principal. And I don't know if any of you guys have asked why previous principals have left. It's 8 in the last 11 years that I can remember. But it's due to lack of support in the position. I've seen great people leave OP because they quickly found out that OP was the third-rate citizen of the district and lacked the support it needs for its youngest pupils. Don't lose another great principal, one that has adopted this school and all of its kids wholeheartedly and with great enthusiasm. He will get burnt out and he will leave because they all do when they realize they're not getting the support they need in this district. A principal doesn't just sit in the office and dole out punishments to kids. A principal acts as an employer, a supervisor, a professional figurehead, and often an inspirational leader. He spans the gap between the school system and the daily experiences of a large number of kids and staff. He can barely do these tasks as he's now saddled with the increasing behavioral and educational needs of more and more kids. You need to support Mr. Bruno so that he can support his staff and his students. He is working very hard and as effectively as he possibly can, but without the support of a dean of students, he is being set up for failure. How many more principals have to leave? How many more students have to be set back? The addition of a dean will be worth every penny. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience like to be recognized? There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Communication.
We do have quite a few topics to cover under communications this evening. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm hoping my voice is going to last throughout the presentation. I'm very nasally, and I'm sorry about that as I'm recovering from being sick. I'm going on like the 2nd week here, so I'm hoping to get better here very, very soon. But thank you for your patience and understanding tonight. So we are going to begin our communications with our K-12 Director of Student Success, Mr. Shiplet. I did invite him here tonight, in part too because of our new board turnover, to make sure that we all understand Mr. Shiplet's role as our K-12 Director of Student Success. This is a grant-funded position under 31AA, which really supports our students' overall well-being and success at school, particularly our mental health of our students, keeping an eye on that. And so Mr. Shiflett's here tonight to share with you his role and the impact that he's had on our district in all buildings. I'd also like to thank Mr. Shiflett also and recognize him. Not only is he has been instrumental in our student support, but also our staff support and administrative support. I can't tell you how many times, unfortunately, Mr. Bruno has been out, or myself, for being sick, that Mr. Shiflett can step in making sure that our student and our staff support remains intact. So I definitely want to give him recognition for everything he's done for our district, for our students and staff. So thank you, Mr. Shiflett, and thank you again for being here tonight to present to the board.
You're very welcome. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. There's a standing joke with Mrs. Von Hillmeyer and myself that, yes, I'm glad I called back, or are you glad I called back after the whole thing?
Yes.
There's been a few times that I've been like, I'm not sure on this one today, but we're going to take a look at some stuff that I already showed the board earlier this year. We've had a lot of turnover, so I've shared this with all of you. It should be in your email. This is the funding that pays for me to be here. It's all through 31AA. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can go read that on your own. There's some links to it in the email that I sent you. So you have that at your disposal. I'm not going to read all this. Student success at Almont schools. This is basically the process. Faculty or principal, someone might recommend to me that there's a student that they see struggling, whether it's socially, academically, emotionally. Could be a variety of them or all three. They then can make a reference or refer that kid to me through a couple different avenues. Sometimes it's face-to-face, and then I go log the student in. But the key of this is that I get some statistics, some strategies that have been attempted by the teachers, so that I'm not starting from starting blocks with the kid, but I'm getting some background on it as well. The older kids I tend to meet with one-on-one. We just have to sit down. Are you aware this is what's going on and stuff? And a lot of the kids are totally like, yeah, I need some help in this area. Some kids come to me on their own and say, I know you're helping some other kids. Could you, spend some time with me as well? Typically, I started the beginning of the year in a lot of support for Mr. Spear as he was coming out of the high school, and that was the position I was in. I made the initial recommendations of the high school kids then based on my time as an intern principal there the year before. So jump-starting him into the year as well as Mr. Zimmerman, and then spending time with Mr. Bruno in the OP, just at some transition times like the breakfast time in the morning as the year was getting going, and lunch periods as well. And I have to tell you, I was scared to death to do that. I spent my whole career with 4th or 8th grade or high school buildings, and so to go to the OP, I felt like I was very nervous about it. They swarm over there, if you know what I'm talking about. They tend to come up with 9 mittens that all want to go on at the same time and coats that go up. Or the breakfast was a little bit traumatic, the amount of syrup that I had to wash off with all the high fives at breakfast as you go around. And if you've ever been a watchdog there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just, talk about sticky. The allocation of time, what I tried to do, attempted, I'm sure there's an error here and there. I've tried to log every hour that I've been in the district every day this year. So that's on a spreadsheet, and what we get from that is this is Q1, this is allocation of time. You can see the orange is Almont High School at the time, blue is OP, and yellow is the middle school. With there being a dean in the middle school and interventions in place there already, from the previous principal, most of my time was spent in the high school and the OP transitioning back and forth. Here's quarter number 2. Started to balance out a little differently as we were breaking into the middle school a little bit more and seeing some needs there. You can still see the OP is about half of my week. And then that's where we are this quarter already. And some of that is, to be quite frankly, we've had a couple snow days on Thursdays, and Thursday is one of the days that I hit the middle school. I've also had ESL training on a Tuesday. That's a middle school day. So I was out of the district. So that green was probably all entirely, would have been middle school if it wasn't taking place that day, or then the snow days as well would change that, but to be expected. So I'm an added layer of support. There's already I-teams, principals. I'm just coming in and putting a second set of eyes on. This year's been an interesting learning process for me because I know I sent an article out to the principals the other day about like subtraction theory, the concept that we don't always have to do additions to things to get things solved, but sometimes we can pull some things back. And we found with a few of our kids that had 60 absences last year, we don't care if you pass anything, your goal is to come to school. And we had a great run in the fall with a young man at the middle school of had less absences than he'd had any other time. And then right around Christmas and those snow days, we had a whole bunch more, but we're trying to get him back on track again. But we're in the 30s with him instead of the 60s. Hopefully we can get that. And he did pass a few things. So, you know, it's the little steps we got to make with some of these. A few of them, it's just a matter of building some confidence, I think, with some of these youngsters. But I'm an added layer of support. Sometimes I'm pushing into a third grade classroom and doing math with the kids. Other times I'm pulling out and getting kids caught up with their morning warm-up. It's been kind of a dream job for an educator who's been doing this long to just be able to plug around, and it seems like almost everybody's happy when they see me, and that's never been my story. They're usually like, oh no, there he is again, you know. And now kids are like, hey, will you help me? Will you sit with us? And so that's pretty fun. Here's the staff supported, and I know it's hard to read the names, but when these are on your laptop, you can read them. These are specific classrooms that I'm pushing into on a regular basis for different things, or pulling kids out. So like student success, that's when I'm trying to crunch some of my data or pop some numbers around. You can see here like the superintendent might be out of the district, or you know, something going on. This is Mr. Bruno, Mr. Spear, and then I think Mrs. Lewis is up here. And you know, there's sometimes Mr. Spear missed a few days for illness, so I'm just in that building for the day I work out of there. And Mr. Bruno had a child that was sick, not sick. The daycare kept saying she was sick, and he was going back and forth. He'd be halfway here, and they'd say, oh, she's sick, and he'd go back, take her to the doctor, she's not sick. And it was a rough couple of mornings there, but we got through it. There's quarter number 2, very similar. You'll see some teachers have dropped off, and some teachers have picked up based on the needs. We're trying to be liquid here and move as needed. And you'll see some numbers later. These again are skewed by snow days pretty heavily. Now the OP, I worked with 14 students at the OP. I'm currently only working with about half of that. 8 of those are just doing fantastic. They're just a quick boost in the beginning of the year. They got off to a great start. And quite frankly, I think that some of them have kind of like turned the corner on that, and they're doing really well. And you know, there's maturity at all levels. So there's been a few times where I might offer teachers and parents some strategies, like try this or try that, you know, and I'll see what other teachers are doing that's interesting, and just steal those ideas and bring them over. AMS, I've worked with 7 students in the middle school this year. 1 moved out. The 6 that remain are struggling academically. They still are. One of them has 35 absences now. Only one of the 6 has strong parent support, and progress has been slower than expected. There's a few here that they just, quite frankly, don't care. And when I've heard either the principal or the dean on the phone with the parents, there's someone in the background using some foul language at that person. I mean, they're tough situations. They're just like, these kids don't care, no one at home cares. And we've heard that story before, but it doesn't mean we're going to throw in the towel. We just kind of stay with them and stay on them, and hopefully, you know, maybe it takes to 3 weeks left of the school year before something clicks, but going into next year, maybe they're the ones that turn the corner at the beginning of next year, you know, so you got to keep pushing. Little data, here's AHS and AMS. So 2023-24 year, last year, the school had 187 E's at the end of the first semester. These were done, 84 students made up those 187 E's. This year that number is down to 132 at the end of the first semester. I will not take all the credit for that, absolutely not. Now, we did initiate, I took a group of kids right out of the chute that were a big majority of those E's, but Mr. Spear has been on this week after week after week and meeting with kids that are starting to fail grades. So, 10 less students, a lot less E's, and so 25% reduction of failing grades. I think that's a pretty good showing for the fall. And 11% less students earning those grades. The middle school, you've seen a little bump here the other direction, but we're really talking such small numbers that this could be anything from a flu bug or a group of kids that maybe are struggling a little lower in some areas where they're math. But I will tell you that in the second group, the 21 students, a few of those are move-ins, and some of those move-ins have failed like 4 or 5 classes. So that's really got a, again, that's a little skewed by the population. If you've got, out of 21, if you've got 3 kids that own like 12 or 11 of those E's, that's a big difference right there. So, and that's what we do see is when we have, a percentage of kids that just have one class that they get an E in throughout their school. But then you have these others that it's like 3, 4, 5. And last year in the spring, we had a couple 8th graders just tank almost everything. They passed like one elective or something, and they were in summer school. And some of these kids are like C's or better right now this year. It's just fantastic to see. And they have the confidence now. So ultimately, ACS is supporting students better. One of my mottos is better is never best, and constant gentle pressure. There's some kids and teachers and principals, we've all worked with people that we just need to kind of stay on it, remind them of things and get things going, and a lot of kids are like that. One observation that I've made this year is that all forms of student-parent interactions take longer at primary level. I can correct behavior in the high school in 30 seconds or less sometimes. You got a group of guys standing in the hallway, you just look down and say, guys, knock it off, get to class. And they're like, gotcha. And they go. Middle school, it might take a minute to get that same point across. I'm amazed at the OP, never working K through 3, at how long some of these conversations take to explain to a kid like why we don't want to do that. We're coaching the students. We're coaching their parents. Some of their parents even are surprised that we're handling an issue like pushing someone down on the playground. They're like, but it's not like he hurt him. It's not like, yes, but we're not going to have that here. So from the time the kids come in the building, we're coaching and coaching, but these phone calls at home, it takes 15 minutes sometimes. And sometimes we're calling 2 households, because with the smaller kids, we're calling multiple parents, and one parent's supportive and the other one's angry, and they come up and they want to have a meeting now, and so we have a meeting. And so what took 1 or 2 minutes at the middle school and the high school, it might take 15 or even turn into 1 or 2 hours of time, like conference hours. Sometimes we have to bring in the SRO for things to explain to parents how serious that kind of behavior is. And I think you're aware of that. But, I'm going to bring up CSTAG investigations. Are you familiar with CSTAG process? Okay, this is our crisis program. So if we have a student that makes a threat, whether it's false or substantial or serious or very serious, we have ways of handling that. It's the decision-making tree. It comes right out of FBI, CIA stuff, and all this. It's very strategic. It's very mapped out. But the CSTAG takes a minimum of 2 trained individuals. So all the admin here, some of our interventionists have gone through the training. It's quite complex, and you have to have 2 there for fidelity. It takes time, and like, we know when we hear that there's a C-Stag in the high school, don't bother. Like, it's gonna take time to get into it. If there's a C-Stag in the middle school, the elementary, and at the elementary, this gets you a C-Stag. If a little kid points his finger at someone on the playground and does the gun motion, that starts a C-Stag investigation. But what we know is if we approach it that way and we walk it all the way back to both students, and both sets of parents are contacted, they understand that we're not gonna have those kind of behaviors on the playground then, or in class or whatever. And that can take it can take just a couple minutes to know that it's a non-threat, but you still have to follow up with the process and get it all documented. And we've had some of these take 4 or 5 hours before SROs are involved. There might be suspensions involved, and then there's meetings with the parents back in when they come back. So, the high schools had 4 C-Stag investigations this year. The middle school has had 2. The OP's had 14 C-Stags. And Mr. Bruno and I estimated at least 25 hours have been spent on C-Stags. Almost all of them non-threats. But there's been a few that have been like I think the 25 hours is one of them that probably took 5 hours just for that one situation with the reintroduction, with the SRO, and it's coordinating all those schedules. And like Mrs. Corgi jumps in when she can, I do, Mrs. Schlon's in there. I mean, everyone participates as needed. We had a day at the high school where Mr. Bruno was out, Mr. Zimmerman, and Mrs. Corgi and I did 2 in one afternoon. We just finished another, and the second one walked in the door, and you're like, are you kidding me? And we were there extra hours, it's just, but 14 C-Stags. I believe it's the best. I was in the military and worked on some different things on ship. What we call intruder on board. These C-Stags investigations are some of the best things that I've seen as far as just keeping schools safe. So this is something that comes across my email almost every day. Some kind of grow your own educator program. This is state, it's national, it's state, it's district, it's county. With all these shortages, it's totally aware. When I was teaching in Marlette, it was probably 15 years ago, we had 3 elementary positions. We had almost 400 applicants for 3 positions. And some of us remember, we were trying to, some of us were trying to get jobs at that time, and it's crazy. And I'm going to give you a statistic in a later slide, but we need to be thinking about where educators are going to be coming from. We have 3 alumni that graduated last year that are aides in the OP, and that's fantastic for me to walk in and see the high school students that walked across the podium last year, and they're knocking it out of the park, all 3 of them. I mean, they're just doing a great job. Some of them are taking classes in education, and they're getting great opportunities to work with, the CI kids, other special ed kids. And, it changes, I think, sometimes from a kid to an adult real quick. So, question for you: how will ACS move forward with EL, MTSS, and other interventions? These are things that I work with right now. The volume of students with needs for intervention is growing. I think we're all aware of that. Could a dean cover these responsibilities along with assisting the OP? I'm working more and more out of the OP. I'm in my office at the high school maybe 2 hours collectively in a week. I'm not there. I'm either at the OP, the middle school, or places in the high school. I work out of the OP any chance I get because I see the level of support that is needed there. I don't handle discipline, but I will coach some situations in the hallway or the cafeteria. If it's something that needs to be handled by Mr. Bruno, I take the rest of things and he deals with that one youngster. So definitely I see, taking a lot of great things that I've had the opportunity to work with and putting onto a dean. Most of these interventions need to be done at the younger years anyway. If we're trying to fix everything in a 16, 17-year-old kid, sometimes, I don't want to say it's too late, but sometimes it takes much more effort than if we could do it in the earlier years. What are the cost-benefit ratio of quality interventions at the primary level? That's for you to decide, not me. Thank goodness. Who will replace principals when they retire or move on? It's a good question. Less and less teachers have gone into getting a master's degree because they weren't sure about the field. And a lot less of them went into administration degrees for that. So if you can see up here, the shortages are teachers, counselors, administrators. This is the number that blew me away. They asked for applicants at the Lapeer County ISD Ed Tech. Dream job for an admin, assistant principal there, great program, great facilities, 3 applicants. And when I was talking to Dawn there, she's like, we were blown away. Like, and one of them came in just hours before the deadline. Like, oh, might as well apply. 3 applicants, you know, and that's scary. Like, the applicant pools, if they're shrinking that much, I mean, I don't think any of us want to get to the point where we're just hoping we find somebody that can run a building or, I mean, any questions?
Did you, Mr. Shiplet, on there, did you have the percentage of your days, was that one of the slides you had?
Percentages of my days?
Yeah, like where you spend, with that on there?
Yes.
Okay, could we get that for the presentation email to us?
It's emailed to you.
It wasn't there? I
Yeah.
didn't have it.
Right before the meeting started today, he sent it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, you know, pick way, if you have any questions, you can just send them to me, like regarding those numbers and stuff like that, absolutely. I'm just trying to provide, when we started this position, I said to Kim, like, well, let me log everything, and she said, I don't think that's very realistic. That takes me, what, a minute? You know, 2 minutes on the day to do, and I figure if this position was gonna stick around, we wanted to have, like, all the possibilities that a person could be doing and thinking, again, I thank you for the opportunity to do this. It's been a real eye-opener for me. It's been a ton of experience in like multiple different classrooms. It's been a 100% privilege to be here. I thank you for that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Shiplet,
Yes,
for being
thank you.
here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue then. Actually, a great segue into our discussion on OP staffing. Mr. Bruno, I'll let you go in just a few minutes. I'm going to say a few things first, but yeah.
We don't connect then, sorry about that.
Are you connected already?
I was just so excited. I'll unconnect.
Connect here for a second.
There you go, all you have is not.
Thank you. Couldn't connect.
We're gonna have to cut the line.
Better call him here.
I'll call Mr. Callen here. Try it again. I don't know if it's because we were crossing wires here. Oh, there we go. Said the right too. Okay. All right. So to continue our discussion from last board work session, and I'm so sorry my back's to you. It's not my preference to have my back to you. I wanted to bring forward some information, and board, I shared with you in your board packet some of the things that I'm going to summarize as we get into a little bit of the discussion. I do want to be careful of saying OP Dean of Students. Just in recent communications, I did share out with you today a little bit of good news in the fact that if it comes to fruition, if we do secure additional 31AA grant funding, that is a potential that we could continue something like the Director of Student Success. I would be open and honest in sharing that I could see my recommendation being more for Orchard primary support in the light of that type of position. And I do have Mr. Verville and some staff here to also talk about the need for additional administrative support at OP. But last month, I was tasked with kind of digging in a little bit more to provide some information and hopefully helpful information to you. As I've been working with Dorothy Blackwell from the Michigan Department of Education, more so in the light of MyKIP, our school improvement platform, I did reach out to her and she was able to share out some incredible and I thought valuable resources. So I wanted to bring those to your attention and I did share those in your board packet. Looking at first student ratios and what the recommendation, and that's what it would be, is a recommendation, not a mandate. So I think that's very important to share with you, not a mandate, but recommendation. So two that I would highlight and was in your packet was the American Association of School Administrators with the suggestion of 256 students to one administrator, and the other one being the Department for Professional Employees. From the 22-23 school year, the average student to administrator ratio in U.S. elementary and secondary schools was reported as 252 students to one administrator. So just kind of keeping those numbers in mind. I also was tasked with looking at our BWAC. I'm just going to pull up that chart. I hope you can, I don't know how you can see that. In your packet, just trying to load it up really quick. It's a little bit bigger now. Okay, but for the purposes here of the BWAC, I mean, making sure that you were looking at the elementary support for our BWAC schools. So wanted to take a look at those and seeing where, I guess, where we fell for that support. And I did add Orchard Primary onto my slide. I don't believe it's updated in your packet, but realized that I did not add Almont in there. I'm so sorry about that. But looking at the surrounding BWAC schools with Richmond, Lee Elementary, probably the closest comparison with 467 students, same building configuration of K-3. They do have a dean, but also share a title as the early childhood director as well. So not just dean, but taking on other responsibilities, and other support being 1.5 social workers. So that's probably like the closest that we have in the BWAC realm. I also did want to highlight, even though again it's not necessarily apples to apples, but another district on here would be Armada. And I do speak of Armada because I do believe that they are definitely, I guess you would say, our competition, if you will. And actually, after talking to Katie a little bit ago, she was sharing as a real estate agent that those talks they're frequent as far as making a decision between Almont schools and Armada. When you were talking about the comparisons there, it's the elephant in the room. And you have updated facilities, and you have a staffing like the one that I'm showing you here, assistant principal, counselor, social worker, psychologist, and behavioral specialist. That's a lot of support given right out of the gate. Okay, so I know it's not apples to apples, they are bigger, but even if you cut that number in half, we're not at that level of support for our district. So just wanted to kind of put that out there that we do have some competition out there. Not everything is, I guess, equal. But we want to definitely make sure that we're providing at least adequate support for our students.
Mrs. Dunn,
Yep.
just one of the things you've got missing, we do have a social worker through our consortium.
We
That
do.
is part-time also.
It just
So-
wasn't designated to that building, so I didn't
Right, but
do
they're
it.
designated to our district. so we
A
need
social
to be aware
worker
of
for
that.
our special education students, yes. Yes, you are correct. And just wanted to continue, again, in support of adding that administrative support, having some research backed with it as well. I shared an article, The Principal's Impact on Student Achievement. It was research done back in September 2018 from Strong and Associates. And this is a consulting company that focuses on teacher and leadership effectiveness. So I wanted to share that article with you and also just highlight a few of the main points that my takeaways from the article that was presented to you if you had a chance to read it. If not, in summary, the principal's practices influence school conditions, teacher quality, instructional quality, and student achievement. Research also indicates that effective principals have significant positive effects on student absenteeism, student engagement with student academics, staff satisfaction, and collective teacher efficacy. Research has also found that the impact of highly effective principals is equivalent to raising the achievement of a typical student by 2 or more months of learning in a single year, whereas ineffective principals lower achievement by the same amount. Research indicates that principal tenure and principal stability have a positive relationship with student achievement. So I wanted to highlight those. And as part of our strategic plan, goal number 4, again, our 5-year plan that I did as we met one-to-one, I did share the strategic plan with you. But within that, if you didn't have a chance to review the whole entire thing yet, goal number 4 refers to personnel and leadership. And with the goal statement, it reads that we will provide exceptional personnel to meet district needs. And some of the priority objectives listed under that is increasing staffing levels as appropriate to meet our needs, and increase opportunities for staff growth, and retain and attract staff. So again, just relevant to the conversation and the push as to why this is such an important decision as far as making sure that we have adequate support at Orchard Primary. Also, I was asked last month to take a look at, dig in to more of defining the role and responsibility. So whether it's the Dean of Students or Director of Student Success at Orchard Primary, what would that look like? And I do have Mr. Bruno, and I will be turning that over to you now, Mr. Bruno, so that you can define that work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel weird talking to the back of some people's heads, so I'll come to the middle. Ms. Vaughn, could you disconnect?
Yes, I will. I can do
Thank
that.
you. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. As always, talk with the Board of Ed. I appreciate all your guys' support and everything you do for our kiddos and for our teachers. Last time I was tasked with talking about the roles and responsibilities of this Dean of Students. So I've got that. I've also got some just academic studies and articles about this. I've got a couple of just voices from our community that I'd like to highlight at a point during this as well, and then talk about some changes that I think we could really implement with preschool to make it more effective and beneficial for our kids. So first, for the roles and responsibilities, really breaking it down into 3 key buckets, and a lot of this has been really helpfully defined by Mr. Shiflett in that role that he's been able to play for us over the course of this year. But number 1, academic support. Number 2, behavioral support and non-academic things. And then third one, the number 1 thing that helps schools succeed is that all-important school culture. So really thinking about the academic support, and I'll break down the day a little bit in a couple minutes for you guys how I'd envision this person spending their day. But spending some time pushing into the classrooms, working with small groups or pulling out groups of students to work on ELA, and then in the second half of the day really focusing on math, and more of that math instruction is taking place. And with that work, really emphasizing and highlighting working with those students qualifying as Title I, those students who aren't quite up to grade level yet, so we can help close those academic gaps for students. Working with our students who have 504 plans and those with IEP plans. Those students who are most vulnerable, those students who are at risk of not meeting those grade level standards. We do an amazing job because of this amazing teaching staff and office staff and the parents we have here of getting kids to succeed at a high level. But this dean position would really allow us to meet more of those student needs, particularly in years when our title funding gets lean. As many of you guys know, it just kind of is a roller coaster year to year of what that title funding is going to look like. It would also be a huge support in our 3 times a year data days. I'll say from this most recent data days a couple weeks ago, asking of our teachers here, I think I spent maybe 30 minutes of the 3 hours in any of their meetings because of things being needing my attention in the immediate moment, whether it be a behavior issue on the playground, needing to support a parent because we want to support our parents and our kids, just the things that come up over the course of running a day in our school. And our teachers, at the end of the day, they deserve a principal who's in there working with them, supporting their needs. And so either having a dean in there or myself in there, at least one administrator being part of that. So they would really be a huge help with that. And the other one being a collaborator and a support for that monthly I-team. Every month we meet to do our child study to see which students need additional support, whether it be academically or behaviorally. Having a second true school administrator in there to come up with strategies to help plan for that, to help execute those plans. Because we can talk all we want. We can talk to our blue in the face that this strategy is going to be great, this thing's going to be awesome. But until I can say to a teacher, yeah, this person's going to be there to push in and work with your kindergartner who's having a hard time getting anything done, or work with that third grader who still can't read yet because they've fallen through the cracks over the years. We can talk all we want, but without having that dean person or that student success, whatever we want to call that person, we're ultimately not doing justice to those kids. So if we can have this person here to help with that academic support, giving one more person to support our teachers, to support me so I can go in and support our teachers, that's going to be a huge lift for all of our school. That second piece of this three-legged stool for our teachers would be that non-academic roles. So all those other things that go into supporting a day, the things that are oftentimes pulling me from being able to be in data days for the whole day, or not have to push teacher evaluations back 2 weeks because of all the things coming up, but being somebody who can help support with discipline and alignment with our district policy would be huge. As Ms. Bauer shared at the start of the day, the rise in student behavior at this age level is growing, and it's only going to continue to. The world has changed since COVID. Whether we like it or not, this is the world we live in, and the more we can nip things in the bud, like Mr. Shiflett shared earlier, the better things are going to be when kids get to the middle and the high school, and most importantly, setting themselves up for long-term success to be community members probably one day sitting around these tables and in these chairs. We also have a lot of great resources that we're just not able to utilize fully to their extent. We've got this Trails program. It's a great social emotional curriculum that the ISD has purchased. We've also got the Positivity Project that we've been able to purchase through some amazing funds through our title program and through a grant through 4 counties. These are great things for our kids to be proactive in making good choices. A dean of students will be able to push in. My goal for them would be to push in once a month to every single classroom and deliver one of these lessons, so that way we can really focus on those different values of the month. As Mr. Shiflett shared, we've got our CSTAG investigations when kids unfortunately don't make good choices. Which again, it's on the rise, and the more we can really limit this and address this at a young age, the better. Just working with students. So many of our kids don't have that great home support that they did when we were all growing up. It's just a different world. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Our students don't all come from the same great home lives that we're accustomed to. So giving them another safe adult in their day would be a huge role that this person could play. And again, just communicating with families. As those of you who know who have kiddos in our school, I try to get back to you guys within 24 hours, but there's days when things get crazy. If you've ever been in there, that I apologize, because I think there's some of y'all who I've probably been a little slow in my communication with lately. But as things come up, that communication gets pushed back, and that's not okay. As parents, you guys deserve that quick and frequent communication, because we're ultimately serving parents and students in this community. So having a dean to be part of that communication piece, to work with families, to work with kids would be huge. And then just continuing to lead positive behavior incentives, that PBIS system. We do our monthly Rad Raider assemblies. They're super fun. We've just been able to bring them back this year. They're awesome. They're great for the kids. Having another person to be leading those and helping our kids make great choices proactively would be huge. And then I always say school culture eats everything else for breakfast. Kids aren't going to learn math. They're not going to learn how to read. They're not going to become great people if they don't love coming to school. So having one more person to help us set that great school culture would be amazing. Being there to support that student safety when we do our drills. Just keeping kids safe, being out there on the playground, being in the lunchroom, being a supportive person. Giving great professional development, or helping me come up with great professional development, because again, that's what all these folks deserve. Our teachers, our office staff, our paraprofessionals, they deserve to have that support from their administrative staff. And so having one more person there would allow me to do more of that. It would give one more person to bring a whole other set of expertise to do these things. And then just creating a productive, amazing school environment, whether it be during the day or outside of the day. I think the things we all remember from elementary school, yeah, I remember learning how to read and math, but we remember going to those evening events, we remember going to all those things after school, and having a dean and having myself there. Man, those would be such fun things to just do more of those to support our kiddos. To really illustrate this, I think one of the questions I got last time, and I included this in the board packet, so I won't go through each aspect of this because it's also crazy tiny, is just really laying down what a sample day would look like. So I broke it down into primary and secondary responsibilities, but I'll just break it down by kind of chunks of the day. So before school, having that person who's there to go check in with kids in the kids club or at breakfast or as they're coming in. Those touch points that just, hey, how you doing? Let's have a quick 90-second conversation. What are you going to do today to be a Rad Raider? Those are huge conversations that can turn a kid's day around right out of the gate so that when they walk into one of those classrooms, they're ready to go and that teacher's not having to reset that tone. And then using that morning block from 8:30, 9 o'clock-ish until about 11 to have that person working with students on ELA. That's when the majority of our ELA teaching is taking place. Having a person to push in and work in small groups with kids or pull a small group of kids out into the hallway and work on that really tricky new concept that they're learning, or that place they're just really stuck on decoding right now, we need somebody to work on that for 15 minutes with them, let's do that. So having that extra academic support on top of our win pairs, on top of our amazing teachers, would go a long way in promoting that success. That middle chunk of the day, if you've ever been to Orchard Primary, you can ask Ms. Niedermeyer or Ms. Stone. I'll have one of them just testify to that in just a second, a little bit for me too. It is just a mad rush of kids coming in and out of the office. Any of you who've had young kiddos in that 5 to 9-year-old, they got a lot of needs. Love them, they have a lot of need. Having another person to manage some of that flow. If I've given a kid that recess detention where they've had to miss recess because of choices they've made, being able to sit down one-on-one with that kid and talk through those choices and how to make better choices. Or mediate with kids who just had a hard moment on the playground. If we could nip that in the bud, have that conversation really quick, send them back on their way, call mom and dad, say, hey, we had this conversation, things are going great again. That is so powerful if we can have that conversation right then instead of 5 or 6 kids lined up in those black chairs in our front office. I think Ms. Vaughn had the pleasure of walking through the other day. There were 4 kids in the black chairs there. There were 2 kids sitting at the table in the hallway to my office. I was on the phone with the kid in the office with their parent. Ms. Schlund was with the kid in the office. And that's not hyperbole. That's not just one day every 3 or 4 weeks. I'd say that is 2 to 3 to 4 days a week where we have this line of people. Imagine having one more person there who could nip that in the bud on the playground, have that conversation before they come in, or be in there to have that conversation. We could get kids back to their day. We could get Miss Stone and Miss Niedermeyer a lunch every day. That would be pretty cool. Love that for them. It would go a long way in just speeding things up and giving our kids and teachers and staff the support they need. And then as we go throughout the day, having that back half of the day to, again, push in or pull out support for math in the hallway, pushing in the classrooms, giving kids support that they need to be successful, would, again, go a long way, not only in helping raise kids' test scores in the immediate, but in the long term, building up that confidence. I can attest I was not a good math student, and a lot of it came from my confidence got broken in 5th grade. Didn't get the support I needed, fell apart from there. Had I had somebody to give me that support, I could be an engineer right now. No, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here. Sincerely, I think some of that experience drove me to this position of wanting to be that person to support kiddos. Having that one-on-one support, having that person to be there for kids is so powerful. All of you are here because you love kids and you care about kids and you want them to be successful. This would empower us to give kids that success. If they could spend their day doing those different things and, of course, supporting just the day-to-day functions of the school, it would allow all these folks here to do their job so much more effectively, allow our parents to just get that additional vote of confidence of, man, this is the best school in the state of Michigan, if not America, where I'm sending my kid to right now. So the research also shows us that when we have principals who can be instructional coaches, that goes a long way in supporting student success. If you look at any principal job description, that's near the top. Is, if not number 1, is probably number 2 behind school safety, is be an instructional coach. I'm not trying to throw myself under the bus here, but you could probably ask any of the teachers there, and I'm not in their classrooms as much as they deserve. I'm not that instructional coach that they deserve. And it's not because I can't do it. I'm pretty sure I could do it. I don't think Ms. Vaughn would have hired me if I couldn't be that instructional coach. It's just that time in the day is not there because we don't have that other dean of students. We don't have that director of student success there every day to support that. There's a great study here that I linked in from an administration journal that looked at Title I schools in the state of California, some of the schools with the highest rates of poverty in the state. Title I, again, as many of you guys know, that's the funding that goes to students in schools who are in poverty, essentially, our students who don't have all those resources at home. But what they found was that when they had principals who could serve as a true instructional leader, when they could engage in shared leadership, high expectations, data-driven communication, visibility, and supporting professional growth, that's where students grew at the highest academic levels. When that when that principal was in the classroom, working alongside teachers, coaching teachers, giving really high-quality professional development, students grew at crazy high levels. Another great article linked in here. It's a little bit shorter of one if you're looking for an easy bedtime read from NWEA. It's one of our the tests that our kids take. If you got kids in the school who are K-8, they've all taken it twice this year. They'll take it once more at the end of the year. They really broke down the 3 key things that they see leading to the highest rates of success among students. When they have instructional leaders, these are the 3 key things they see. They see higher teacher retention, they see greater job satisfaction, and greater knowledge of instructional techniques across the building. And why this matters? We have amazing teachers. I think any of you who've sent your kids through here, you know about the great teachers at OP. Those teachers deserve to be coached. They deserve to have a teacher or a principal who they can sit down with and set goals about their students, who can help facilitate collaboration, who can develop the highest quality possible professional development. If we want to continue to retain folks like we have sitting in the back of the room, we've got to give them that instructional support. We've got to give them that because there's other districts in the area who might be able to give them that. We don't want to lose them to there because we're better than those other schools. Come on. So, y'all have heard me talk a lot. You heard me talk today, you heard me talk last week. I know there's a couple folks who might want to share a few things just from our stakeholders within the community. Can I turn it over just for a second to some stakeholders who are part of my presentation?
Hi. So I'm going to be very nervous and very sorry, and I'll try not to cry because that's what I do when I get nervous. I don't think you guys understand the actual need. I know you both think, oh yeah, it's busy. But when we say that all of our chairs are full, that's behaviors. If somebody's in suspension, Susie and I are the ones that watch them. Because Mr. Bruno's being told here, he's there, we have students that can't be alone during transition times. They can't be alone in the cafeteria, they can't be alone on the playground. So Mr. Bruno if he brings his coat that day, he gets it on and he goes outside and he has to monitor that child. That leaves Susie and I by ourselves. That's anybody that comes in hurt, anybody that's not behaving in class that gets sent down, all of that falls on her and I. It's not, these aren't a joke. I know people are like, oh, they're probably faking their numbers. Seriously, it is crazy. And we're going to lose somebody that has done so many great things at our school if we don't get some help. Because he's doing awesome things, but he can't do it all. He's one person, and he needs some support. So I hope you guys understand that. And this is my 4th year, and I am burnt out. Justin, you know, when your daughter was in kindergarten, I called you once a week. We were best friends. We're busy in the office, and it is getting worse. We have more students that have behavioral issues, whether it's EDD, whether it's they just don't want to be in class, and they don't want to come see Susie and I. I mean, how many more times can I take away a chair and a table from a kid because he can't behave in class, and Mr. Bruno's dealing with another issue, and Susie and I are trying to handle that? I mean, I don't make that kind of money. So I feel like we need somebody that can give us some support.
Can I stay seated? Well, not standing. So we did put a lot of discussion and talk and thought into a lot of what went into the presentations that you've already seen. I'm not really sure how much more I can add, but we are very, I could cry too. We are very concerned what we're going to do if we don't have somebody like Steve. To take a step back from even where we are today, I don't know what that's going to look like. We have beginning of the year challenges with students, just learning how to be students. They're your babies. We have brand new parents that have never had kids in school before. So we're kind of, in a way, I don't mean to sound demeaning, but we're also kind of teaching parents how to be parents of students in school. What does that look like? They are frequently surprised when we call and say, they did this. And years ago, we all did that, and that was no big deal, really. The world is a very different place, so
We're seeing behaviors that are different, and we're seeing behaviors that we have to react to differently, and it takes up an incredible amount of our administrators' time. Our teachers need additional support. We call it classroom managed behaviors frequently, but the amount of extra time that they have to put into managing these behaviors that back in the day would say, don't do that and go sit down. Now it has to be a huge discussion. There has to be phone calls home. There has to be documentation. There has to be follow-up. Things like that that the teachers are having to do because our administrator is tied up with all these things and doesn't have time frequently. It does fall on Jackie and I, and it falls on them when they should be concentrating on teaching the students. They don't frequently have the support that they need. The CSTEC process is important, but crazy amount of time that's put into that. When you said 14 only, that number surprised me. I thought it was probably double that for the amount of time that's gone into that. I feel like getting ahead of a lot of our behaviors and issues, just like we see PBIS for the students, I think we need PBIS for our entire school and our staff. And that's the kind of stuff that our principal could get ahead of for everybody's sake, so that we're not trying to play catch up and taking care of things after they happen. There's a lot of things that I feel like could be more positive in our school, that we're getting ahead of the game instead of always trying to fix the issues. What else did I want to say? Yes, recesses. We fought the battle a couple years back to try to go to one recess, and there's pros and cons for both of those things, but our recesses go for 3.5 hours every single day. They start at about 11 o'clock and we don't end until like 2:30, and really we're going until about 3 o'clock still trying to take care of the issues that happen throughout that 3.5 to 4 hours that we had lunch and recesses happening. Our chairs are almost always filled with kids. You guys have all had kids in our school, and if you've ever been at Orchard Primary between the hours of 11 and 2:30, you've seen it. And that's, you know, I miss my mom. I want my mommy. They come in sad sometimes. They didn't get enough sleep. And I know kids all the way up through seniors in high school have issues like that too. But these are our babies that we're trying to help learn and grow and support. So it's just really important that we get ahead of it and really support our OP kids for our parents' sake and our family's sake, but also for our babies. What else did I want to say? Our principal also is a big support for our bus garage and our bus drivers. Frequently getting calls, we get a lot of discipline reports from the bus drivers and the bus garage, and I don't know if people really realize that, how much support he gives to those people as well. Kids Club as well is housed in our building. There's a lot of support that goes into Kids Club and behaviors and family issues, things like that that take up a lot of his time. I guess that's all the notes that I have. Just really kind of almost begging for the additional support in Orchard Primary. We really need it. So, thank you.
There was a period last year where I was, in the fall, where I was the dean of students before we made the move to become an interim principal. There was just one guy in that office, that was me, and I would rather do that again than try to fill his shoes. I would rather try to be the athletic director principal at the high school again and try to keep, like, I've seen this guy in action, and there's not much seat time. And I mean, I've just shifted my schedule to where I'm going to be there almost all day Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after I check into the high school. It's still not.
Oh, okay.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Mihelich, and I have been teaching first grade at OP for 9 years, and in the last 9 years I've had 4 principals. And 100% OP teachers are absolutely affected by the constant changeover in administration. This career thrives with consistent leadership, and with a revolving door of principals, every initiative that we put in place together barely gets a chance. With each new administrator comes a fresh vision and new initiatives, and the old ones get tossed aside. We are constantly having to change things, but it's incredibly difficult to make change. On top of that, principal-teacher relationships remain more surface level. Principal-student relationships do as well. Feedback from teacher evaluations are challenging due to being evaluated by someone different every other school year. I could continue on and on about how consistent leadership is imperative to the overall success at OP. And the main reason that I'm speaking right now is that I just truly want a leader that will stick, that will stay, and will help us educators to grow in the best way so we can be the best for our students and families. And therefore, I fully support the dean or the student success role. So therefore, the principal role will be supported as it is absolutely needed. And as a result, we might find a leader who will stick around. We'll be able to see excellent ideas and strong initiatives come to fruition. We'll be able to recognize the positive progress of these initiatives and adjust as needed and continue on with them over an extended period of time. As educators, we just want to feel supported, as does our leader and principal. Magical things happen at OP every day, and just imagine what more we could do with a little extra help. Thank you.
Small dissertation I wrote. Lots of notes, lots of thoughts. I come to you as a OP parent and an educator on hiatus. I have 16 years of teaching experience in kindergarten and 4th grade. Most of my career was in 4th grade. So I have some knowledge and can speak to some of the things that Mr. Bruno has said, the teachers have said. It's emotional as a parent. Coming in, we're new to the district. This is our 2nd year, so I don't have a ton of experience. But we moved here knowing that Almont had a reputation for excellence. And now my fear is that's slipping away. And, that was in the current climate and financial status of the district. And so I have to thank you all, those of you who have been here, who have recently run, because you're in a hot seat. I mean, you've knowingly taken on a position that will present challenges, no doubt, and many, many tough decisions lie ahead of you. There's no doubt. But when it comes to the future of our children, I strongly encourage you to think about the information that Mr. Bruno has presented. The kids, I piggyback off of something Mr. Shiflett had said, we have a window of time to reach kids. And staff at elementary, this is the foundation of learning, the spark, the glow, the interest, connections being made. You want them to become inspired in some way, no matter what avenue it is, be it science, be it math, be it reading, if they want to be a writer someday. I mean, this is where it is, it's magic. It is. And seeing it in my own children who have struggled with reading. My oldest has ADHD, and getting that diagnosis was life-changing for him. And now the world has opened up for him, thank goodness. And my middle child, my daughter, she's struggling with reading, and we're working. And I am so thankful for her teachers who are addressing it. It's not just all a little bit better. We're trying everything. Resources are coming home. Mr. Bruno, we've had conversations, we've looked at test scores. What am I missing as a parent? What else can I do in supporting them? Because it's not all on them. In my mind, being a former educator, there's a part that I play in this. It's not just all on the teacher's shoulders, because they do wear so many hats. The day is not simple, I'm going to teach and it's a beautiful, amazing lesson. It doesn't go like that. They wear more hats than you can imagine. Unless you've been in their seat, you have no concept of what the day looks like. They are teachers, they are caregivers, nurturers, they are first responders, they are crisis managers, they're motivators. I mean, the day, it's endless, the things that they encounter. And, you know, building the relationships and maintaining them with kids, the day is jam-packed from the second the kids hit the door to the moment they leave, and then for hours after, because as educators, their job isn't done. The kids leave and that's it. Oh, well, I'm done. No, it's, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, how can I meet my kids' needs? They're spread thin. I don't know how they do it. And they're doing continuing education as well. And then there are people outside of school, their husbands, wives, daughters, sons, aunts, uncles, their obligations outside. And when they are doing so many things, because I would say a majority of the teachers at OP, and I can only speak to OP because my oldest is in third grade, go above and beyond. They sacrifice of themselves, their time, and their own personal money to enrich and enhance the education of their kids. But there comes a point, a breaking point, where they've given all that they can give, and if they're not getting support they need through no fault of, you know, decisions have to be made. I mean, it's something called burnout, and it's a trickle down. As Mrs. Miller said, I mean, a school is only as strong as the administrators and the highly qualified teachers who are there. And I was going to touch on the same point that she did. I had learned that there had been multiple administrators going through OP, and I was blown away by that. Because one, as an educator, you need to have leadership. Somebody who can help you grow. And when you don't know, they hopefully have some solutions or have resources to help you. But it's very concerning. And I think we struck gold with Mr. Bruno. I think very, very highly of him. I think he is a positive presence for the kids, for the parents. I think he is very reflective. You know, our phone calls have not always, you know, it's not always happy. There have been negative things that, hey, we had an incident, and, you know, he handles it with a level of professionalism that we should all expect in all walks of life. But that's not the way it is. And so we're lucky. I mean, he goes above and beyond to build relationships with staff, with kids. And if we don't hear what he's saying, and we don't hear what the staff is saying, we're going to be in bigger trouble, because we're going to lose a gem. I mean, we struck gold. I mean, we did. And then we're going to lose staff. I mean, there has been turnover, and I don't know the numbers on staff turnover, but I've heard about that as well. So what happens to our kids' education when we start losing the highly qualified staff? I've heard people in the community, well, anybody can teach, baloney. There can be a body in a classroom, but not everybody can teach, and not everybody can lead. Our schools will fall apart if we don't support our administrators, our teachers, other support staff. We will be in trouble. And when it comes to elementary school, if kids aren't making gains, consistent gains in reading, by the time they leave third grade, it is an uphill battle. I have seen it. I've taught in 2 different states in diverse settings, and you're asking the kids to climb the mountain if they don't have the skills to climb. But everything depends on reading. If kids can't read, how are they going to take any tests? Science, math, social studies. they can't. They can't succeed. They fail, and they know that they're not succeeding. And then they give up. And then you see more and more behavior problems. In the world, it isn't a pretty place. It's not what we grew up in. I think it's more complicated and, quite honestly, cruel than when we were kids. And so, to be able to give the kids the education they deserve, the support they deserve, to make things, to make improvements, I feel like it's our duty. And so as you guys look at the financial, I know there's shuffling things around, retirements, I highly encourage you, make it a priority to see what you can work out, because the staff, the kids deserve the opportunity to succeed, to be valued, to feel success. And again, I'll say, the teaching profession is in trouble. Talking about statistics and numbers, in the last 2 to 3 years, the numbers have gone down with the number of people going into education, and then the number of people leaving because of the burnout we talked about, being spread too thin and doing too many jobs, is going up. So we're lucky, we're blessed. We have great administrators, we have great teachers who go above and beyond, day in, day out, making our kids' education better. Let's not lose them.
I think all these, folks we're blessed to have in our school community, I think I said it better than I could, and they're the voices that are part of our school every day. And at the end of the day, we're trusting everybody's communities and trusting their kiddos to us to start off that educational career. And if we can set them that strong foundation by giving them that extra support, it'd go a long way into shaping our community for the future. And I think another way we could do that is by really maximizing the space that we're using at Orchard Primary to moving preschool over to our kiddos. I think with the space that we're going to have coming available, I think it's the logical decision. I think it gives our kids the support that they need. So currently, if you don't know, our preschoolers are housed here at AMS, right around the corner from here. But developmentally, obviously, they are most similar to our kiddos over at Orchard Primary. They are, 3, 4 years old, and they're going to be 4, 5, 6 when they come over to us. So having them over there developmentally would really be helpful. And looking at our current sizes of our classes, and I'll show you a model of this in just a second. We're going to have 2 classrooms available starting next year. Currently, we have 1 available that we're using for our intervention program because we have the space, but intervention doesn't necessarily need its own standalone space. We're able to do that either in the classrooms, in the hallways, use the library space. Up until last year was the first year we had a dedicated space for intervention because 4th grade was taking up a lot of space over here. Not that we don't love our 4th graders, but we didn't have the space for it. So it is very much a program. Most schools don't necessarily have a dedicated intervention space. They either just pull kids in the hallway, set up a space in the back of the classroom, build it in the reading rotations, use the library, etc. Another point I just want to emphasize, with 1 teacher retiring, I'm not going to say any names of anybody because it's not my place to share yet, but with 1 teacher retiring, with that open classroom, we wouldn't be displacing any current teachers by moving that over there, which would obviously be, the ideal. And then adding, those 40 kiddos that would come over with our 2 preschool classes, that would put us over 450 students, pushing us really up close to that 470 mark. We're at 427 right now, so we'd be pushing up close to 500, just depending on what our year-over-year numbers are. And I'm a chart person, I think a lot of us are. So looking at our current numbers, 24, 25, we've got 5 sections of 1st and 3rd grade, 4 of kinder and 2nd, and then 1 of young 5s. There's going to be a little bit of change and a little bit of consistency. Consistently over the next 3 years, we'll have 1 section of young 5s. Developmentally, it is super important we have that young 5s classroom for our younger kids coming into kindergarten. If we have special needs kids, it's a great place for them to get their feet underneath them. If it's a kiddo who just needs that extra year to get ready, it's a great thing. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had a kid in young 5s. It's an amazing program. If you've got kids coming in, hopefully you get them in while Mrs. Landis is still here, because, man, I hope she's here when my kid is old enough to be in young 5s, because I really want her to have Mrs. Landis here. Right now, we're looking at probably 4 sections of kindergarten each of the next couple years. Right now, Ms. Stone has been working crazy hard on starting the enrollment process. If you ever want to see somebody work really hard on a project, go watch Ms. Stone do enrollment. It is a crazy intricate and time-consuming task, and we're grateful to have her doing that. But looking at our numbers right now, we're right on track to have 4 sections of kindergarten and 1 of Young 5s for next year. And just again, based off previous year's data, we're looking at probably the same thing going forward. You'll see currently this, I just want to highlight this class right here, 5 sections of first grade. That was just an abnormally large class. Those things may happen. It just depends. That's how the world works. But looking, just forward over the years, we're going to lose a big section of third grade if there's 5 classrooms coming over here. That also means they're going to need additional space here at the middle school, which would in preschool would free up some space for that. And then each of the next 2 years, most of our sections again would have 4, or grades would have 4 sections, with the exception of that one really large class this year's first graders. So that would be 5 right there, leaving us again 2 empty classrooms each of the next 2 years. And then assuming we don't have another really large class like our current first graders, come the 27-28 school year, we would have 3 additional spaces of classes. But again, who knows by then if we maybe had a really big school of choice in one grade somewhere along the way, a really big kindergarten class. But that's all to say, we would have the space starting in the 25-26 school year to move our kindergartners, our preschoolers over there, give them that leg up, give them be part of our school community, get them familiar with our building, get them familiar with their principal, with their dean of students, with some of their kindergarten teachers, with all those different people, with most importantly the secretaries who they see at the start of the day when they walk in the door, with all those different people. So I think it would be a really good move on our part to move them over there with us as well for the upcoming school year. And I think also as somebody who's going to have a preschool in a couple of years, I think selfishly, I would much rather have my 4-year-old in a building with 5 through 9-year-olds than with 10 through 13 and 14-year-olds. I think most of us will probably feel the same way about our own kids in preschool. So, again, really appreciate your guys' time in hearing us out. You've got an amazing group of dedicated educators, dedicated parents pouring their all into this. At the end of the day, selfishly, I'd love to have a dean of students. It would make my life a lot better. But really, more importantly, it's not about me. It's about these folks back there pouring everything into this. It's about our kids who we're setting a foundation for their life here. Giving them that extra support would be life-changing. It'd be huge for our kids and our community. So I hope you all consider that. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions?
Mrs. Smith?
Burrow.
Who currently administrates the preschool?
Um,
How does that work? Do you handle that in this building, or does this building handle that?
This building largely handles that. I think they're pretty independent from what I understand.
Okay.
And so it'd be great for those two ladies running those programs to have an administrator to have that additional support too, just because developmentally it makes more sense for them to come see
Right.
an elementary than a middle school or a middle school.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Mr. Burrow, yes, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Z, they're involved with preschool programming as needed.
Right.
And sometimes some of the issues come to my attention. So it kind of takes a team of us to
Right.
support.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Burrow?
Can I jump ahead one thing and ask a question? What is it? Because it's the next agenda item.
Oh,
Because there's a preschool update, but I can ask the question then, but I'd rather ask the lady standing up here.
okay, go ahead.
Since you gave that presentation on the classroom sizes, there was a letter in our packet that said that Whitmer was going to make the preschools bigger.
Her plan.
Her plan is?
Her plan is to
It-
provide universal, right, to go to universal.
If the preschool was to absorb a lot of extra kids, would we have the space in that building to do that next year or whatever that would take
I
effect?
think it's going to depend on the classroom recommendation. So, and I'll briefly talk
Okay.
about that, but if we're going to add potentially another GSRP program,
Right.
if we're going to potentially keep a tuition-based program, or maybe we would just offer a half day. There's options that,
Okay.
that we need to explore. I believe Mr. Bruno has space for 2.
We have space for
preschool
2
programs.
currently. We could get flexible, some other things that we could do.
Okay.
I think one of the advantages of our building too is just those bathrooms in the classrooms. I don't know if that's the case over here at the middle school, but bathrooms in the classroom for our preschoolers is
That was actually one of the big reasons
Yeah.
why, right in our initial discussion,
Yeah.
Mr. Bruno, just that's a definite request, and it would be definitely an advantage to have a bathroom for our little ones, our 4-year-olds in the classroom. Currently housed here at the middle school, they share those bathrooms with, students and sometimes staff.
Okay.
yeah, those classrooms that we would use, they each have their own bathrooms, which is really fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry, not a very professional word.
It delivers the point.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, I have a bunch of questions.
Let's go.
Right, that last slide, so my slide is different in the packet, and I don't know if it was just.
I may have made an update late in the game that.
Okay. But I show for 26, 27, and 27, 28, it's got Y5 and K combined. What's that about?
Yes, I apologize for that. I had, that was an error on my part. I originally had Y5 and K combined in this row right here, and then separated them out for the sake of ease. And so I think it was these two right here.
Yeah.
So I just moved that Wi-Fi up to the row above there. So they.
I didn't know if we were adding or what.
No, that was just a miscommunication on my part. My apologies, Ms. Smith.
That's okay. So for the WIN program right now, who does the push in and the pull out stuff?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So currently we have 3 WIN paraeducators. Those of you who were on the board last May, if you remember, I came and talked about our WIN program. Then last year we had 6. That was because of our ESSER 11T funding. With that funding having to have been spent by September 1st of this year, and believe me and Ms. Merrifield went back and forth with the state to try to figure out, hey, could we keep them, if we allocate this money now, can we, it has to be out the door by, they said, no, you gotta have it, you can't do that. So we tried every which way to get that to happen. So it's a long way to say we currently have 3. Ideally, we would really have 4 or 5. One that could be, serving each classroom during our blocks of those times. Anyways, those are 3 folks that are paid largely out of Title I dollars. We have 3 wonderful ladies. They come in they're here about 20 hours a week, Monday through Thursday. They're doing a lot of pushing into classrooms this year. In previous years, they would pull kids out into the hallway or just pull them out to the library. Because of the fact that we only had 3 due to the Title I funding taking a hit in our initial allocations, we had to really reconfigure our program so they're doing much more push in, or in an ideal world, they would be pulling them out into the hallway. Those folks are under, they work really closely with our teachers on, hey, this is what those kids need to work on. They also work really closely with our literacy coach who we get from the ISD, Jeannie Schultz. If you've ever met her, she's one of the best early reading resources you will ever come across in your life. Chances are she's probably worked with some of your guys' kids or advised on how to work with some of your guys' kids. So a long way to say we've got 3 ladies right now who are pushing into those classrooms and pulling them out. Honestly, they're not even using the WIN room a whole lot because just how it's set up. It also takes, if you've ever been to OP, it takes a 5-year-old down in that hallway about 7 or 8 minutes to make their way all the way down to the other end of the building. So logistically, it really makes a lot of sense for those ladies to just push into those classrooms, be part of the reading rotation, or pull a group of kiddos out into the hallway and work with them there.
Okay, so if preschool were to be moved over,
Yes.
and you come up with a 5 sections of kindergarten, which has happened in the past.
Sure have, yeah.
Where do you put that?
Yeah, so that would be one of our potential challenges. It would potentially limit our opportunity for growth. There's other things that we've done in the past. We've really had to make use of other spaces. If I understand correctly, one of y'all who have been here longer than me, correct me if I'm wrong, the room next to the teacher's workroom used to be a special education room at one point. That is a break glass in case of emergency type of scenario. One of our 2 MOSI rooms could use either one of our 2 MOSI rooms or one of our resource room. We could potentially move over into that space. I'd rather not have to do that, but again, if it's what we have to do for the sake of our kids and for our community, that might be the road we have to go down.
And this would also limit school choice then too, moving from school over.
It potentially could limit our school of choice. I know it's a board decision what grades are going to be open for which school of
Right,
choice.
and if we're out of room, then we're out of room. And then you have to close school of choice, which we know historically, which we've been told, when we bring kids and get them into the district at the younger levels, then they stay with us all the way through in graduation. So
And research
I'm
will
just
show us.
looking at everything.
No, for sure. Research will show us that kids who start a program in kindergarten. I come from charter school world, so our goal when I was in charter schools was we get kids in K1, we teach them the ways of how we do things out of school, and we really set them up for success. I don't see that any different in the public school world, and I know we've always been a destination for school of choice, largely because of those folks sitting back there.
On the day-to-day stuff for the dean, I talked about dealing with students who are in a moment of conflict. Do we have a room where that's done, or would this person have an office, or how does that work?
Yeah, so number one, we definitely want to get them in office. We have our conference room, if you've ever been in there. It's about the size of the interior of this ring. It's not super large. I'd like to make that the dean's office. If you've ever been in our building, you take a left and you go into our building, go in the front doors, take a left. That first room on the left is being used twice a week by one of our speech therapists, Monica. She's only there twice a week. We could have her sharing a different space, so we could then move our conference room over there. Right now, we just haven't had the need to do that. So we can move our conference room right over there. That room has kind of really been a multi-purpose room over the years. But I'd really like that dean in that front office space with Ms. Niedermeyer, Ms. Stone, and I, Ms. Schlund, so that way that whole administrative team and office team could all be in one spot. So it'd be a great place for kids to work out. To answer your question, it'd be a great place for kids to work out conflict, obviously, coming down there. I also think about so many of our conflicts that happen with little kids at this age can be really solved right in the moment. If it happens on the playground, if a dean is out there working on the playground or in the cafeteria, they can have that conversation out there. They can pull it in there. Obviously, if it's something bigger, if it's one of those CSTAG investigations or something larger, we'd really want them to have an office, and preferably in the front office, so they have their own space to work and to work with kiddos.
That's good. I really, really appreciate you. I think all of you coming and is there any other questions from the board?
Actually, I do have a question now. Going back to where you had the chart, you had the number of classrooms that you were planning on using. Can you add to that and maybe get it to us, later this week if possible? How many number of kids do you have in each of those sections?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because that helps us also as we look at school of choice to be aware of that as to, is this a place where we would be able to open up for school of choice? So that would really be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. I can get you the total number for the grade and the average per class.
Thank you.
For sure.
Anybody else?
Mrs. Smith.
Mr. Brady.
One of the slides that Mr. Shiflett had posted, just a thought. As if we move forward, we post it, and we have minimal, maybe we have minimal, maybe we have a lot, maybe we have quality, maybe we don't have quality, a backup plan to advise, to get the help that we need, whether it's maybe a counselor, maybe it's more wind pairs, maybe it's recess aid. What would be a backup plan if we posted it for 3 so we got nothing in terms of that to get people in there? So that would be something that I would ask to devise.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal thing to consider, because the amount of people wanting to go into school administration shrinks every day. If you want to know, I'm happy to, you think go. No, I love that. Really, there is no better job than getting to be the principal of this school. I do love it here, but I've thought about that. A couple different things. I think number one, adding this dean role would give us a really great opportunity to grow our own. Mr. Shiflett mentioned that earlier. There are so many great teachers who would be great administrators working in this district right now. I got 3 or 4 that popped to my mind right now, but there's probably more that I don't even know because I don't know all the folks at the high school, not that many at the middle school. So that would be a great step, because I also just think, like, you look at Ms. Bond, she was a teacher, assistant principal, to superintendent. That's the model we want for any school, right? We want to see our own growth. So I think we could see some interest from them there, but assuming maybe say all those people are like, I'm pretty content to continue teaching, I'm doing an awesome job. I'm always willing to say I'd rather not fill a role than fill it with the wrong person, because again, culture eats everything for breakfast. We need somebody who's going to fit with what we do. Thinking of other roles, somebody who could maybe there's somebody who's really interested in working between a middle and an elementary school. Maybe we split that role a little bit and have somebody who's like a K-5 dean of students and also free Mr. Z up to do more things, because I think his day is pretty jam-packed tight, Miss Lewis's day. I think about, maybe we get a full-time, we fill out a literacy interventionist position part of the day as well. Or fill out because Ms. Schultz is only going to be with us about 90 days next year. We could fill out her contract with some of that too. We could get additional, WIN support in there. I think all those things that together would make one great dean of students, but splitting that out, certainly if the right person doesn't come along, we could look at that. I'm a firm believer that we'll put good things out in the universe, the right people come to us, but I hope is not a strategy, right, in our world.
I may make a plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan, start over.
I like that. We got to be ready for anything, right? Tell you, I don't think I've ever had a day here where my day would fully be planned. I shared with you guys last week, so I'm with you this week.
Any other questions?
whoever would like to leave in the audience, or if they choose to stay, that's fine too, but just a break if we could, just get everybody stretched.
Reconvene at 7:20.
Thank you.
Thank you all for, let me share and speak with y'all.
Friday.
Okay.
Friday, 9.
Okay.
Okay.
I was like, screwed up my calendar.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
I was looking at it, I was like, I'm with you, like, there's never, like, best laid plans, right? I always get one, the best expected one, second strategy, so.
I do. I know how it gets out.
Good, so. I really appreciate you just thinking of like different ways to support those.
The risk of not doing your last week
That would be cool. Let's.
We couldn't meet, there was 4 of us.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Standing there for 45 minutes.
I appreciate all the Burrow family does for us. Yeah, that would be really cool. If we ever want to host cross country meets, I'm happy to help be part of that because hosting. Let me know if you want me to. That was my previous life as cross country and track. So. You know, the dismissal time, and I really do miss coaching. That's my favorite thing. I can figure it out.
You need any flowers for that project, but you know, I'm happy to be
That was like,
Blacked out.
I was Thank you, ladies, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good night. Drive safely.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye, Kristen.
Our next topic, preschool update.
Sorry, I'm just trying to project a little bit.
Did we pause the session?
Just sort of break.
I think he just unpaused it.
Just sort of.
It's on. Should back up the rest. Okay, regarding preschool, I know there's a lot of questions out there, and we are waiting for, when I say we, not just me, probably the state of Michigan here is waiting for some more direction or maybe guidance as Governor Whitmer's going to be given her State of the State address on February 26th. So just next week, we should hear a little bit more about some planning for preschool. I do know from seeing, I guess you could say, leaked documents, if you will, seeing her plan for preschool, making it a 2027 goal to provide preschool for all four-year-olds. So with that said, this has been on the docket for some time, and I do believe a lot of districts, even districts around us, are expanding their GSRP preschool programs. So actually, I just spoke with Star this week, and she was stating that this is her 28th year, and there's only been one GSRP classroom in the 28 years that she has been here. So in light of maybe what's coming down the pipe here, it might be a good opportunity for us to take a look at, just with budget concerns, constraints potentially moving forward, it might be a good time to explore an additional GSRP program, especially if we are if we're able to open up some space, and it sounds like from Mr. Bruno's presentation that is a possibility. And then having, the question then, do we have, as you know, or if you don't know, right now we house one GSRP program all day, and then we also run a tuition-based preschool half day, so an AM and a PM. So with that said, having this discussion with our teachers, also our Lapeer ISD support for early childhood. We have a coordinator, a director. We're having a preschool meeting actually tomorrow afternoon to talk about some of this, but some other issues too. But we're talking with our Lapeer ISD early childhood coordinators so that we can make a determination or recommendation that's going to best suit Almont at this time. So a lot of things to consider, and I'll be working with Kathy, already have been, with some numbers with preschool tuition-based programming. As the board, if you've been on the board for the last year, at least the last year since I've been on as superintendent, we're a little concerned that we're losing money in the tuition-based programming. So we really need to take a look at that, analyze that, and make a recommendation of what would make sense for Almont schools. So again, it's kind of preliminary to really have a full-fledged conversation about it. I'd like to hear the State of the State address from Whitmer to see if there's any additional information or light she's going to shed on future programming. But I also would like to have some more conversation with our Lapeer ISD, early childhood coordinator, our GSRP teacher, obviously too Mrs. Porter, our tuition-based preschool teacher, to get our ducks in a row for a recommendation for future preschool programming for Almont. But we're going to be in that window, and I think it's already happened. We have parents reaching out. This is usually the time that they start reaching out and making those decisions about preschool programming for their children. So the sooner the better. With that said, we wanted to get a date, or I wanted to get a date on the calendar for a parent meeting. So for a preschool parent meeting on March 27th at 7 o'clock in the AMS cafeteria. So we'll at that time be able to, again, there'd be another work session next month, so you'll get more information on what that potential recommendation could be. And then moving forward and providing as much information as we can to our parents on March 27th. Are there any questions on that? I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update, because I feel like it's a timely issue, especially with the State of the State address coming next week. Yes.
You could add one, or you can add in a second to your.
Yes. Yes, I would like to explore, yeah, so it's actually amazing, I feel like it's amazing that we haven't explored that opportunity yet, it just maybe hasn't presented itself, or maybe the need wasn't there, but I definitely would like to explore offering an additional GSRP classroom. And then also, depending on spacing, is it a potential to offer, to continue to offer tuition base? Does it make sense for us to continue to offer that after, when I have more time to sit down with Kathy and analyze preschool, how much we're losing for that program, what makes sense? And again, like we were saying earlier, we want to get our students in, we want them to stay, right? We want our students to stay with our district once they start school. So keeping all of those factors, in mind as we're making these decisions. Any questions?
Do you recall this year, how much in the red are we running with our preschool? Do you recall?
I want to say 24,000, Kathy, approximately. I just want to be careful sharing those numbers as far as, not for certain, but I believe our recent talk was around 24,000 in the red for this year.
Projected for the end of this.
Projected for the end of this 24-25 school year, correct?
Yes.
So if if you were to suspend the tuition-based program, all those kids would go in as GSRP?
Well, if we open up 2 GSRP classrooms, if we ran them all day, it's a 20 student max in the classroom, so it'd be open for 40 students.
So we wouldn't really necessarily be adding a third section.
A GSRP program.
It's your GSRP, but if
Yep.
we had to get rid of the tuition base, then we're not really adding more students necessarily.
Not necessarily, pretty even though.
There's 34 tuition-based preschool students.
There's
How
30,
many?
there's 34 currently, and then 20, so, yeah. So we would be losing, we could be losing
So we wouldn't be expanding the program.
Unless we consider, right, to
All three.
continue, like, for example, and that's why I said a half-day tuition-based program, if there was space, if we could still offer that.
Plus the
To our
2
families, plus the
GS.
2 GSRPs, yes. But I want to make a recommendation that makes the best sense and as far as being fiscally responsible,
Yeah.
making that recommendation. We also want to take advantage of some potential grant money that's offered for starting up GSRP classrooms. There was a $25,000 grant offered this past school year that we were able to take advantage of. And if that is still an offer on the table, it's something I'd like to really strongly recommend we consider.
So that 24,000 in the red, that just comes out of general fund?
Yes.
Historically, though, just so you should know, we are losing money every year on that program. Unfortunately.
Mrs. Smith. And initially, when the program was initiated, they were told that they had to be self-funded, and it has never happened here. And it seems to me that even with the 20 in the classroom, the GSRP, it doesn't pay for the educator, does it? Isn't it?
It does.
I think
It
it's
does?
very much
Okay.
self-funded.
And the aides.
Okay, good.
It's self-funded, so it's, I guess that's my question, right, as to why we wouldn't make that consideration, so that's where we're at.
Mrs. Smith,
Yeah.
why would we just raise the tuition on the tuition-based program?
I believe there was, we did some work on that last year, and I believe we were pretty comparable to, if the board, if you were on last year, we were very comparable in our tuition-based rates.
Comparable to?
Area schools.
So if we were to raise it, it's detrimental to kids going?
Potentially, yeah, could be a factor.
Oh, you're having a meeting with the parent on the 27th.
Right, but there's a work session in between that, there's a work session before that, so.
I know, I was wondering if
Oh,
that
sorry.
gives us enough time, because if you're having a meeting on the 27th, and you only have a work session before that, and we can make decisions about what we're doing. I guess what I don't want to do is, I don't want to have you go deliver a bunch of information to the parents, and then have to go, whoa, actually, we're not doing A and C, now we're doing X and Y.
No, I think, again, and all I can do is, bring the information to you that I have, like next month, and if it's still an update to the parents, this is the window where parents are making decisions, so to share out with them what we know for fact is what I'd want to share with them. And then even start like a registration, process. Having the registration paperwork available for them at night, so whether we decide to go
But
GSRP or.
if we don't have a decision about what we're doing, we just say we don't know what we're offering them?
I mean, it's a potential, right? It's a potential, but I mean, at least it'd be offering.
I don't know how we can have a decision if we're not getting the information until the work session, which is right before the meeting, and we don't have a meeting until after. That's what I'm trying to understand.
So I think the biggest consideration, I don't know, I mean, after I speak and get more information and provide information on the GSRP programming, I don't see that not going forward as a recommendation. It's the tuition base that I would be, that I would have to work through and how to deliver that information carefully to our parents if we did make a decision by March 27th. But I do foresee us make a recommendation for an additional GSRP classroom and what that would look like.
Okay, so I know you had the tuition base for years,
Mhm.
and it was, do we know, I mean, I guess we would need some more information after, like, how long has
That's-
it been, do you have all of that in there? Okay.
And
But
that's what we're
I
working
think it
on.
lost money every year.
Yeah. I think it was-
When you start owning it full time.
The biggest loss, I believe, from my conversation with Kathy was this year, this projected year, right, for 24-25 is looking like the biggest hit of $24,000. This has been the biggest hit for loss of programming. from my
I did a
conversation with Kathy.
break-even analysis too on the current tuition fee right now. To break even, we would need to enroll 48.85 students. We have 34.
Well, and I guess one thing I think about is I don't want to take that opportunity away from kids that only need or want a half-day tuition base. And so, like, I just can speak from my experience, like my kiddo at 4 would not have been able to handle a whole day of preschool. So, like, I don't, not everybody will want like a full day. So I'm just trying to make sure that as a board, we have the right amount of time to make decisions to help, to be there for you and support you, so that when you go to the parents, you have a whole plan to say.
Yeah, as much as I can share, again, I will bring another update to you during the work session, and as much as I can share with the parents, but I think it's only fair to bring to them, when they're in this window of making those decisions, I want to bring information to them as much as I can. It's going to make sense for, planning purposes. So I know whether we're going to be able to make a decision about half-day, for example, right, half-day tuition-based preschool, maybe we'll have the numbers, a little bit more solidified as to what that might look like.
Ms. Smith, yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions, was the half-day, speaking from current experience, as I do have a preschooler who attends the AM class half-day. It is a lot, just that 3-hour window, so I'm just wondering, how parents would feel if that would be eliminated.
Sure. But these are some of the hard decisions depending on what the vision is here for our budget and what kind of loss we want to continue to take if we were to continue to offer the tuition-based program.
Mrs. Smith, another consideration as you meet with them is to, if we did do one section of a half day, we did want to find out which is best, AM or PM. Because I think it's 20, we do 20 and now the other is 14. So.
I think the AM, just speaking from what Mrs. Porter has shared, the AM session seems to be the most popular and the most requested.
And how that will also then affect Mrs. Porter in terms of.
For certification, are you talking about?
No,
Or
it's-
just
We
in
moved her to
general?
full-time with the two sections. So if we're going to one, that's going to affect her. So that should need to be in that conversation of what potential.
And she's been involved in our preliminary or, our conversations right now, so. Well, thank you very much. Just wanted to kind of bring this to your attention because we're kind of in this window, hopefully to gain more information as we hear our governor speak next week. Okay. Moving on to our facilities update. I just wanted to make sure it was known. I know, again, with new board members coming aboard and having worked with or working with Verigy for a few months now, for quite some time, for them to do our assessment around our facilities and provide some potential alternative solutions for us. I wanted to just make sure that it was known that I really wanted to, kind of think outside of the box and see what we could possibly do with failing 2 bonds and a sinking fund last year, what we could do to potentially bridge the gap between, making sure that we're maintaining and updating our facilities as much as possible through sinking fund dollars. Of course, I think we're definitely doing a good job of that. We are prioritizing, and you're going to hear more of that tonight from Jason. But also, is there another way to get some of these projects done? And that was the whole point of, researching and looking at a company like Verigy that offers these alternative solutions. There was never an intention to not involve like our community or to do like a backdoor deal, if you will. This is about providing a bridge before we can get to our next bond potentially or our levy in front of our community. So I just want to make sure that was transparent because I want to make sure that if there are community members out there or board members, if you are, if you have some concerns about that, I just want to make sure that, I'm coming forward and telling you that the only reason to think outside of the box is because of the year that we had last year and not knowing, it's kind of the unknown of not knowing when we would pass the next bond. Or levy. And I know we haven't even had a real robust, discussion of when we're going to, proceed with the next bond. So these are some of the elephants in the room, but I wanted to, be transparent and let everyone know that this is just one way or one path to an alternative solution to getting some work done for our facilities. On that note, Verigy invited our building and site committee to a virtual meeting, and that was last week, to follow up on answering some questions. I reached out to the building and site committee. We were able to make that happen as far as, if there was any questions that Verigy could answer. And so they invited us to this meeting to provide that information. So with that information in your packet, you should have received the potential energy project options. And there were 5 that were proposed. And again, this is all about a project that's going to improve our learning environments of the buildings while paying for itself over a period of time through enhanced energy savings. That was the whole point of this potential project. So we have 5 options here. Option 1 being the lowest cost controls project. This would involve water conservation measures in all buildings, HVAC controls, renovation, recommissioning at OP and middle school, HVAC controls replacement for high school, with a budget at approximately a $1.3 million price tag, with a utility savings of $75,767. Option 2, a lowest cost controls in high school boilers. So really adding the high school boilers to this package from option 1. With a price at $2.5 million, with a savings of $77,000 in utility savings. Option 3 would be all new controls in the district, and that would be the water conservation and the HVAC controls for all buildings, $2 million. Budgetary utility savings at $75,767. Option 4, all new controls in high school boilers. So all new controls, including the high school, and that's the boiler replacement, 3.2. So this would be our most expensive option. And our utility savings per year, $77,000. Option 5, this would be the cheapest option, and this would be potentially just waiting on our high school repairs, if you will, a lot of updates to the high school in a future levy or bond, and this would put this project at a $1.2 million price tag with a $55,000 savings in energy. So with that said, just providing potential options of what we could be looking at if we intend, and that's another piece of this, if we decide to go out for an RFP, that these could be potential projects then that we would be looking to outline. And going through the RFP process then would allow our bidders to also provide some alternatives, maybe alternatives in the RFPs, and getting us real numbers. And with that said too, with the numbers, making sure I'd be working together with PFM, for example, that could be one of the avenues, working with PFM to get those numbers and payment, schedule payments to you more accurately if we decided to move on an RFP process. So I guess at this point, I did reach out to each of the building and site committee members just to kind of see maybe, you know, what some of their thoughts were and if they had any follow-up questions. And I'm inviting them now to the table to kind of share out some of their thoughts if they could do that.
I guess I'll start off. So as a new member of the board and knowing that we have 4 new members of the board, I think that we need to have some vision on where we're going to go with developing a bond for the community, whether that be, and this is where we have to make a decision, is it going to be next year? Is it going to be 4 years from now? Because a lot of the stuff that Barry G is talking about that's in this project would potentially be on a future bond. And if we were to do both, there would be some waste. And this is for members that weren't in the session as well. There's a 20-year payment period here. So if we were to replace equipment 5 years into the period, we're still going to pay for it for the next 20 years, regardless of how much we keep. Now, I think a lot of it we would be able to maintain and keep. They were pretty honest and straightforward. Hey, there's going to be a few controls that would have to come off the heaters. It would just be quicker and easier to remove a new furnace and put a new one on, and to take the control with that. So I don't think there would be a huge loss there, but it is a concern. The feedback that I have gotten from community members, and I'll say a large portion of them are members that voted no for Bond 1, but are not a no for supporting schools, and they want to support the schools. The community opinion on that is, hey, this is kind of like going without us. We will be a yes if we have the right bond. So I think that we would offend some people in the community if we decided to go forward with this in that regard. So I think that needs to be a consideration. The opposite of that consideration would be we might still get a no vote on the next bond, and this stuff might wait 3 more years and be in worse shape than it is now, or break in the middle of a winter school season and we can't keep the high school open because the boiler is down. So, I mean, that is also a real possibility with 37-year-old equipment as well. So that is stuff that I would like to hear board opinions on and have some discussion on. And I don't know if tonight's the night for that, or if we need to plan a vision meeting in the next month or two, or when that needs to be. So that's how I'll start the conversation for whoever wants to go next.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, any of the other building and site committee members who want to speak?
Ms. Smith, Mrs. Vaughn, I appreciate your time and put in with Vergy and doing all this. Being a newer board member and kind of, knowing a little bit about the buildings, like obviously we understand that the high school boiler is 37 years old, do need work. We know Jason is spread thin with what he does, and having kind of unified control over all the buildings would be amazing for him, right? One thing that I personally struggle with is just I don't know where the things that we've identified fit in with our overall priority needs. I'd almost like the opportunity for the building site to spend some time with Jason and kind of develop some sort of what are our facility needs, a priority list, now and in the future, and do these really fit in those priorities, directly, and kind of on top of Russell's concerns. I'd just like to take a little bit more time. I think it's certainly a possible option, and like, I agree with the need for the controls and the water conservation and the boilers and all that, but like, I'd like to just maybe understand a little bit more before we kind of, I don't want to feel like rushed into the decision.
Just so everybody knows, we did the energy bond 2012, QZAB dollars. So I asked, reach out for some information. I then dove into the drive. Again, Mr. Candella's board notes are informative. So in the board goal progress, March 26, 2013, district had obtained a QZAB for 1.2 million. So it would be similar to the lowest. One of the things that I would want to know would be what is allowable to be done with this, because this is an energy bond, and we completed, according to this, roof, which was the high school locker rooms. I don't remember if it was the gym or not. Carpet, lighting, and courtyard. So for me, the carpet is how does that fit into energy. So I wouldn't want to spend something on something that we need to get fixed, but doesn't fit in the needs of what is to be advertised. That's first and foremost. But it's a $100,000 payment, and our last one's going to be in May. So that's $100,000 out of the general fund that is now going to be back in the general fund. So that's a consideration we need to make of, along with what you stated, Mr. Burns, what our priorities in terms of that. What could we accomplish with what's left with the sinking fund in terms of, they've said that the biggest bang for the buck would be lighting and working with some of the new expertise in different areas. Can we accomplish that, some of that with the sinking fund and start some of that energy saving now? And my main concern is we have so many unknowns. I wrote down, we don't know our projected pupil count yet for the fall. We don't know our per pupil funding yet from the state. We don't know what federal funding we'll get. We don't know the PFM numbers in terms of what the payment would be, what interest rate. There's a lot of unknowns that, for me, if we got 10, I'd like to know over half of them before we have to make a leap. Again, I think we need information and evaluate. Is there something outside the box that can start energy savings or savings and replacement of some of this with what we have now? I mean, this still may be something we have to do, but I think we need to take a look at some information.
Mrs. Smith. I guess one of the questions that I had in our drive, it shows the cash flow for options 1 and option 2, and what would be coming essentially out of our general fund, as well as with the savings, but I didn't see the other options in there as to what that would be. So I would like to get that information just so that we have that.
Yeah, I think they, just regarding the numbers, again, they said that the more specific numbers would come, more accurate numbers for you really to review during the RFP process and working with PFM, you would see those true numbers.
Right, I'm not asking for the true numbers, I'm asking for, just like you did the chart here for option 1, and it shows, you know, the $101,000 payment per year out of general fund. Option 2 shows $196,499. Option 3 is not on there, option 4 is not on there.
Yeah, I think they only provided the two
Yeah,
samples.
we could have those.
I certainly can
Yeah.
ask.
Just so that we know what we're looking at out of our general fund, depending upon the direction that we go in.
So they did the last 3 options based on what we'd asked. The ratio for option 1 and option 2, if it holds steady, I did that for option 4, which is the most expensive. My estimation would be about $249,000. Whether that's accurate or not, but it was, the ratio held for the first 2, so that may give us an idea of what we would have. So that's 2.5 times what we would be putting out from what we have done.
Mrs. Smith, I'll add that, like, really that payment would really come down to working with the loan vendor, PFM, in it can actually be structured, like kind of tiered to match the savings. Like, so there's different options that they just did a flat out, divide the total out with the interest rate and did it evenly across the 20 slots. So again, if something
The
like this
payment
was
schedule's
pursued.
gonna look different.
Yeah, the payment schedule could look different than what we see there. It was just to throw it out there as a rough idea of what this could be.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Mrs. Smith, is going back to what Mr. Barrow said about that meeting, potential meeting with Jason, having that meeting to speak more about the vision of it, is that something that can be pursued soon in the near future?
If the building site agrees to do that, then yeah, I think we will get that on schedule. Jason, good with that, another meeting.
Sorry, Jason.
The only thing I want to say is I think it will be beneficial as we remember and whatnot to kind of create a vision and a plan for our infrastructure, especially with going into budget season, so we can kind of plan ahead and get some RFPs going before we start getting all our numbers in order. I think that would be very, very helpful.
Mrs. Smith? There was one other thing that I would like to at least have Ms. Vaughn have you explore would be if we got, through the whole Verigy presentation and through a lot of meetings we've had, it comes out and Jason is not able to be a project manager, right? He's our maintenance director, but he's got maintenance to do, and I know that we were having a hard time finding support for him to the point where we got a refund. But if we could somehow get him some help, I don't know if we pay somebody, I'm gonna just throw a number, like if it's $20 an hour to come out and be a maintenance person around the district, but it gives him more time to go out and do RFPs and negotiate money back. Do we end up saving money in the long run across all these projects? If we don't have, I understand his concern. We did a walkthrough and Jason's like, hey, I can't project manage a new track and field. It's just not something that I'm confident in doing. And I totally understand and recognize that. I feel the same way. But are there projects that he could manage with extra time that would save us from having to go out and get a GC that we might have to spend like $100,000 to have their expertise come out, but maybe Jason could coordinate having all the lighting done or having all the controls done or something like that where we could save enough money to pay to get him some help for the general maintenance. So, well, I don't know where all that falls, so it would be nice to have something of what we thought.
I can have Mr. Frederick maybe speak to some of that during his update. Or we can also, again, we can arrange for our building and site committee meeting as well to share some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in full transparency, Mr. Frederick and I have had some conversations about exactly that.
Okay.
What he could manage per se,
Right.
or from a CM kind of standpoint versus our maintenance director.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be more of a valuable conversation.
Yeah.
To continue that discussion. We can certainly do that at our building and site committee meeting. So that will be on the docket
Okay. I appreciate
in
that.
March. And we're heading into late February here, so probably in March we can get a building and site committee meeting together and go forward with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith, just again thinking outside the box, I don't know if we can get, the Ed Tech has some different programs. They've got the electrical program, and as kids get into their senior year, they're allowed to go for work placement. Maybe we ask them in the future if some of that work placement can come right back to Almont schools. Just a thought, outside the box.
I like outside the box. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
The next one, then, we have, just to make sure everybody's all set for the walkthrough date, our building tours, that is set for March 12th, Wednesday, March 12th. Please mark it in your calendar. And the building tours are scheduled from 8 to 11. So you'll visit each of the buildings for approximately 15 minutes, giving you some 10 minutes travel time between the buildings. We'll have lunch back at the central office between 11 and 11:30, and then head over to the Ed Tech. For those of you who are available to do the Ed Tech tour, as you know, that's part of our high school programming, and that will be offered to us from noon to 1:30 over at Ed Tech to kind of, I was thinking about maybe splitting that day, but just, trying to be respectful of your day jobs, hitting it all at once if possible. So if you're able, that's great. If you're not able to do the PM tour, no worries. That's something that can be scheduled again, later this year or next fall. Okay. Any questions about that schedule? All right. I'm going to turn it over to Jason then for building and site.
The sinking fund projects that were approved by the board back in the fall, I still had one RFP out that I had posted in October, but due to changes made, variations in the bid received, as well as me developing a more stringent specification, I put it back out for rebid. That was dealing with select interior and exterior doors at the middle school and high school. Looking at things and some cost savings, I've dissected this, which was allowable for my RFP, to which I have gotten away from any door replacement here at the middle school. I believe we can make some repairs, which is going to save quite a bit of money versus going with brand new doors here. Exterior doors primarily number 1, which is the main entrance, as well as door number 3, which is the east entrance. That leaves us to 10 total doors at the high school, 3 of which are exterior entry doors, what they call storefront doors. I had originally received 4 bids, but as I had reached out for an alternative bid, the one company didn't reach back, so that leaves me with 3 bidders. The bidders go from $81,798. The middle bid is $78,502.15, and the lowest bid is $71,314. My recommendation for this is which would be the higher of the bids, the $81,798. This is a company that has replaced doors for us, as well as other work within the district in the past. They do very good quality work. For a school setting, their workers, they work very well for the school setting. Very impressed. So, while my RFP states that cost is an important factor, we're not obligated by any statute or regulation to award the bid solely basis on cost. So my recommendation is for the $81,798, which is Midwest Commercial Construction. They are a local company out of Imlay City. On to
Can I do my fact sheet then?
Absolutely.
Just so we can, and then if there's any discussion. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's right. Just want to make sure we understand building and site is Mr. Burrow, Mr. Burns, and Mr. Wade.
Okay. So per policy 6320, the Board of Education must approve purchases over $28,048. A request for proposal process was filed and 3 bids were submitted. IDN $71,314. Before $78,502.15. Midwest Commercial Construction, $81,798. Midwest Commercial Construction is a local company and has done work with Almont Community Schools previously. Thus, the recommendation is to award the bid to Midwest Commercial Construction.
Any discussion?
Mrs. Vaughn, we had talked in terms of bidding and policy and law, lowest responsible, whether it fits into our scenario of if we've determined a bidder to be responsible and the lowest bid. I know Ohio state law, there's an opinion of the Attorney General that states if it's the lowest and they've been deemed responsible, that's who you should go with. Now, whether that translates to Michigan, these are things that if the lower bid is a responsible company, they cannot, my understanding is that they cannot be dismissed because they haven't done work for us in the past. So that would be something I'd want to verify.
No, I think it was just based on reputation and previous work that they've done through concrete. Was your recommendation?
I guess it's how you look at it. It could be looked at as though I'm disqualifying somebody because they haven't done work, but at the other end of the spectrum, I'm qualifying somebody because they have done work, and I believe that the district should be its own best reference in awarding work to individuals that have proven themselves to do quality work. So,
And my concern is that we are a municipality and that every dime matters. So if the lowest bid has been deemed responsible, well, that's a difference of $10,000. So I think that's a legal question that needs to be clarified as we move forward on projects. What is our actual responsibility?
In the past, right, just, we've gone through an RFP process and not necessarily gone with the lowest bidder.
Lowest responsible.
Lowest
So if
responsible.
the lowest bid is been deemed responsible, I'm curious if by law, that's what we should be doing as a municipality. Whether they have or have not worked for us or not.
Yeah, I will follow.
Mrs. Vaughn, like, I guess the part of that would be, what is the definition of responsible?
That's where we,
Is that
Is that subjective? or
Subjective.
Subjective?
I would assume it's subjective, but I want to make sure that we're crossing our Ts here. So it's the first time, I guess, it's come up in this light. I know that we've gone with other companies that have not been, they have not been the lowest bid. We've gone with them.
But have
So
they
what the
been-
question is,
have they been deemed irresponsible?
right. And I don't know, past experience, Jason, if you can speak to any of that. You've been through a lot of RFPs.
I have had situations where there's bidding companies that have not ever performed work in the district, and to Justin's point, is it subjective, responsible or not? Do I do my due diligence? Do I see if they're part of the Better Business Bureau? Do I go through ratings? Do I, references are one of those things that when you ask for a reference, am I going to give you my worst reference, or somebody's going to say, Jason wore his dirty boots in my house? No. So there again, that's subjective too, references, right? But sometimes the references that people provide, it's subjective based on me at that moment as well. So yeah, we can look into it certainly.
I just wanted to add that I think this one originally started at $120,000. So I appreciate you coming up with solutions for the middle school that did require the complete replacement of doors.
The initial bids for the middle school, the highest was $294,000 and the lowest was $122,000. So,
but I just want to recognize that we do appreciate that you are going above and beyond and trying to find ways not to just, hey, let's throw something new up because it's easy and let's get through it, but we paid and save some money here. So I just want to say that.
Moving on to sinking fund. The only thing that's changed from the last time, and the sinking fund that is in the drive is current, it's updated, as well as there is a current sinking fund that is on the district website as well that I've been trying to update or have uploaded once a week. It's not like the one in the drive that's in real time. The only thing that's different from the last time on this is we had a fob installed here at the middle school at door number 2. That's the 4th grade hallway. There was never any key or fob entry into that building. So this really puts the ease of entry for it. It was needed for that end of the building. Some of the other projects that were already in queue, the exhaust fan replacement, we should have those at any time to which that project can get started. The fire panel replacement at the high school, those plans are being drawn up as we speak. Potentially a start of our spring break, which would be the first week of April, or when the plans get done. I've been told that the company that we decided to go with can mobilize within a couple days. We've just brought up the select interior doors, and I'm still working on Ricky in the district. That's something that will be below our threshold because will be utilizing our ability to purchase the locks and the cylinders and the key blanks. I'm working on getting I still have to do my due diligence and get bids. While not out for RFP, I'm working on that language and that verbiage to be able to go out for that. The PA system update, the last Blue Point that we did a simulation where it was during recess. Mrs. Vaughn, myself, Mr. Bruno, Mr. Shiflett, I believe, was there. We went out onto the playground. We could not hear the PA system, obviously, that's on the exterior. This is the only building that has an exterior PA system. We could actually, it was so loud within OP, you could hear it better than you could this here at this building. That was me walking all the way up to that chain link fence. 75 kids out on the playground that were yelling and screaming at me, and kids at recess, as well as depending on where the wind was blowing that day. So what we've decided to do is our PA people that work on sound planning, they came out, we did an evaluation of what we could do for the exterior of the playground at OP. The determination was that we're going to place a couple speakers strategically on where the gymnasium kicks out into the playground. And that was for $1,686.32. Sound Planning is a company that we've used for a long time. I wasn't able to really get too much back in trying to get another bid, but we went ahead and we were going to schedule that for over the spring break. They have to run the wires from the head-in room, which is up by the media center, go through the cafeteria, and then of course through the gym. So it'd be best when there was no students. And then one of the last things that I was going to talk about was Verigy. I'll be quite honest, the wind kind of got knocked out of my sail on that one. I certainly can respect and understand as a board, being new members, you want to not be hasty when it comes to a decision, but please understand from my standpoint, I've sat here for years now and watched the can get kicked down the road, only to end up in what I refer to as we didn't spend the sinking fund because it was on the bond, and as soon as both of those failed, it then, the court of public opinion turned to, what did you do with our sinking fund money? You just sat on it, you did nothing with it, and then it kind of turned to a, hey boy, why isn't this fixed kind of a mentality. That's how I feel, honestly. So I don't have I guess I'm just voicing to you guys that I've sat here and I've watched this continually just roll down, and I guess whatever glimmer of hope to at least be able to do something that would to give some sort of relief. I've already gone through, since the last meeting when we discussed that Axiom was giving us a break, I've gone through about 30-some applicants. People just they don't want to work. I don't know how they're paying their bills. I don't know what. I had one phone call or number come across my phone. I thought, that's weird, so I plugged it into my email, and sure enough, it come up as part of a resume, so I called it, and the person answered, and I kind of explained, hey, I'm so-and-so. Well, where's this job at? I said, well, this is Almont. Well, I live in Gladwin. Well, why'd you apply? You know what? I get it, but so we've tried some incentives. Axiom's even increased the pay rate. Things like that. We're trying things. But to Mr. Bruno's point and culture, I'm not going to force a bad employee. I'm no further ahead. And when I say me, it's not just me. It's me and Jack. I don't know what I would do without Jack Merrick. He is fantastic. So it is disheartening, but like I said, I can respect your decision to want to get more information and to do your due diligence. This is just me on this end, already gone through, created the initial work list. So when you guys say you want to sit down and pick my brain, I think we need to go back to the work list that was established with Park Mallow, because that was the meat and potatoes of what does this district need, what do we need to do. And then from there, it kind of morphed when Ron Selly came into play, and things were just kind of cast aside, and there was some other things that happened. So, we could start it, but understand that this project with Verigy, and I'm not trying to push you or rush you, but we have a small window because this work needs to be done over the summer when there's no kids. So if we're going to pass on it, we're going to completely pass on this entire summer, and this will be, even if we go forward with it, will most likely be pushed to next summer. So That's all we're gonna say about that.
Of course.
So, but do I get excited or geeked out when we were talking about adding controls or being able to, when I say controls, I don't mean it from a controlled standpoint, but just from an efficiency standpoint and being able to, have it run a little smoother. I expressed during our building and site committee with Verigy that, these sensors, you look around, you find one here, right over there by that pillar, where it kicks out by the copier and they don't make that sensor anymore. I can only get it on eBay. And if I get it, guess what? It's one that's been cannibalized from another job. When a company did get new controls, they said, oh, look at all these controls, we can sell them now. So even if I got a new control, it's not a new control, it's a used one. That its life has already been, So yeah, so I'll sit here and I'll eagerly await something to happen.
Moving on.
Mrs. Smith? Before we do, for the building and site, one thing that was made, and this was when I was first coming onto the board, so feel free to fact check this. I believe Jason said that routine maintenance, we were pulling roughly $120,000 a year out of the sinking fund to do our general fund maintenance, because it qualified.
Yeah,
Our sinking fund stuff.
and that was a number that on any given day.
It could change.
Yeah, it could change, that I would have said it differently, but
Right.
yeah, I think at one time when I looked at it, and that was without planning projects per se.
Right.
Or trying to do a spend down.
Right.
Yeah, that was not too far off.
I would just take I know we're going into finance committee, I would just like to put that out there that the sinking fund's not always gonna be there, and those repairs are still gonna need to get done, and that money we're taking from the sinking fund is going to be out of the general fund, within a couple of years. So, just to be conscious of that with decisions that go into finance. And then I do appreciate it, I hear you. We had a big turnover here, so, I do hear you on building the site that you've gone through this process more times than you would care to. So hopefully we can get to somewhere quickly. For sure.
Jason, I appreciate everything you do for our district, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said go back to that work list. I think that's what we need. We need that building site, we need that now form to go through that with you and look at, what are our top, literally top 5, what are our top 10, like what needs to happen in 6 months, what needs to happen in 2 years. I think we need a roadmap, and I think that will be tremendously helpful. And so I am thanking you ahead of time for taking the time to do that with them. So, thank you. Finance, right? All right, so just as a reminder, finance is Mr. Wade, Ms. Fred, and myself.
Checks written? Any?
Actually, Kathy, I could not find anything this month, so you have done such a great job the last 6 months with me. Thank you very much.
Please make note, she has no requests. Mrs. Fred?
The 45610 Pure Water Partners, I was wondering, is that a monthly fee that we're paying, or is that, I guess what the period of time is? And then I also was looking at the 45617 and 18. It was Culligan, and it almost looked like it was kind of for the same type of thing, and I wondered why we were using 2 partners. And was that monthly fee, or?
Okay, the 45610 is for Pure Water Partners for WellSys. And I do believe these are for is it for the bottle filling stations?
Artisan?
WellSys, or
Okay.
sorry, Pure Water Partners for the WellSys system.
I only know about Artisan, so I
Yeah.
don't know if you said that out of cue, but.
Yeah. And then 617 and 618. to Culligan, let's see, I think it's just timing. Check 617 is for the period of January into February, and 618. Sorry, 618 is for DTE.
Oh, okay. Maybe I must have been incorrectly cited. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I have, we'll reverse since you're right there, 45619.
Okay. To FAMS Printing. 4 t-shirts. This is for the middle school. For new staff members. 12 t-shirts.
And one last one, 45603.
Event link services. Calendar software. Athletics. It looks like they bought some calendar software for athletics.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lost my. Please take a minute to take a look at the, which one is next? Activity funds. Any questions?
That was good.
And the account balances. Any questions? I will do my usual. We are, for our expenditures, we are within the 2/10 based on the last 2 years, and we were 3 points ahead from where we were 2 years prior to that, so we're doing good. No, nothing else. If nothing else, we can move on to budget amendment.
All right, the moment I've been waiting for. All right, I will share my screen. I do apologize for being late. I did find a guest wandering around, so I guided her here. And so I was also working on gathering the summary of the history of all the proposed budgets, the approved final budgets, and all the amendments into one sheet. They were hodgepodged everywhere from all the different managers that y'all have had. So I just buckled down and I got them all on one sheet so we can have this now going forward forever. I was able to go back 6 years. So being bottom line people, I did upload this in your Google Drive moments before I arrived. So I wanted to just point out that, and I know this is really small, but you can review it at your leisure. And I did highlight the approved budget for the year. in this beautiful chartreuse color. And then the amendments are unhighlighted, just to show over the years, and I'll go through them very briefly, for years 2019 and 2020, the fund balance proposed budget was, and again, these are the proposed budgets that were given, 14.3%. 2020 and 2021, 7.5%. 2021 to 2022, 13.73%. 2022, 2023, 10.66%. 2023, 2024, it dipped down to 6.8%. And now, this year, our proposed budget was 12.71%. So I will just kind of go to a screen that we can read a lot better. This is just this current year, fiscal year 25, which shows our original budget proposal was 12.71%, and I have amended the proposed budget for February of 2025. Sorry, my bad. February, yes, to be 10.86%, and you guys, all the details there that you can go through each line. Some of the main factors, of course, were all the AEA raises, the staff raises, our Axiom increase, the Dean Transportation bus increase. We had a lot of increases. Then I wanted to go through and look at what our actual fund balance was at a 5-year history vantage point. This is the graph that I am presenting, and here are the details here. So just to kind of give you an idea of what the actual fund balance was over the last 5 years. So as we look at our amended budget, it is significantly lower due to mainly those raises that we gave to secure retention in our teachers and our staff, and among a few other things, so our major, and I know that we really wanted to try to look at projecting out 25, 26 and 26, 27, and I'm really trying to approach that project very cautiously. I was trying to go through how to give some credibility to those numbers that I would be forecasting, and I quickly came up with 7 things that are unknown in the abyss. Mr. Wade mentioned the student enrollment projection. There is a company that can assist us in that student projection. MSBO does have a software, number 2, for they call it dynamic budget projections, that could help some software that would help project out based on known factors. Number 3, we really don't know about future food service, free meals. We don't know if free meals will be next year. Number 4, federal funding, specifically special education. We don't know what kind of federal funding we're going to be receiving. I know the president has his things, and then there's Congress, and it's, there's all that. I'm sure you all know. Number 5, the AEA, we have a wage reopener with them. We don't know what that increase is going to be. Number 6, we don't know what the property tax revenue is going to be, or what the assessed values are going to be. I am going to have a watch party on Tuesday with the other districts at the Pierre ISD to try to, with PFM, to try to gauge some of that and get some of that data. Number 7, Title I funding is purely based on poverty level. And our poverty level actually increased this year from last year, and we actually got more Title I money that we hadn't, really was made aware of because we didn't know our poverty level had reached that certain amount. So I would really like to to go forward with projecting this out, and I can do the best that I can if you guys want me to still try to do that. There's just a lot of unknown, and yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. It's just a sign of our times, our culture, our current government. There's a lot of unknown.
Well, Kathy, I certainly think we don't want you wasting hours of time. We do appreciate the efforts, though, attending, sessions
Yes.
or, informative sessions, like you said, like with PFM. And once you can get that more, lined up, it might provide more information to project out, or at least, share what you can. But we certainly, I'm sure the board would agree, we do not want you spending hours of wasted time on projections that are, it's not going to mean anything at the end of the day. But from informed decisions, yes, or informed, direction or guidance, that would be appreciative.
Kathy, this is great, this document. Thank you so much. This is very helpful.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith. I would agree. There are way too many unknowns. I think that whatever you came up with would be unrealistic.
Yeah.
I do think we have to recognize that we have deficit spent for the past few years when we've done our budget in June. I was going back and looking at that information, and we've got to be very cautious on that. One of the things that we have said as a board is we don't want to get under 10%. And we don't have a sinking fund there to help stabilize us if something big happens. So we just have to be aware of that as we move forward in looking at our budget.
Well, unfortunately, we do have a deadline, June 30th, for as much information as we can. Again, there's nothing that's going to hold the state to July 1st, which is what they want, but they don't have to have it in until October 1st. So last year what we saw was that we had one number from the governor, one from the House, one from the Senate, and it came back as a fourth variation. We have the governor's first proposal, which would be good, 392 per pupil increase, plus some other things, categoricals. But again, that's still to be seen in the legislature. So we'll fill in what we know when we know it.
I'm hoping that in her state of state address, maybe she'll, give some insight, because the rumor, I'm listening to a lot of rumors, and they are rumors at this point. She is talking about giving a $10,000 per pupil foundation allowance for fiscal year 26. However, the categoricals that they gave us, the MIPSR's offset is 5.75% for this year. And that actually put us in a better place than a per pupil foundation. However, it's temporary. We don't know if that will be there next year, what that percentage will be. A lot of unknowns.
Thank you very much.
Kathy, I just want to recognize you again for just your incredible help. Even though I know I monopolized, I think, part of your day today, just trying to go through some of my own numbers and figuring things out. But I just appreciate all of your due diligence and really taking the time to understand each of the line items that you're attacking every day. So thank you very much
I'm very happy to help
for
and to be
for
here.
your efforts. Thank you so much.
I also want to give a quick update on the food service RFP. I did give you an update in your drive. We do have solid dates for our process. And it looks like around March 4th, things are really going to get rolling with that. We did get our documents back from MDE, and we're ready to fill in all our blanks and just get that initiated and going. And another RFP I will be working on tomorrow is for an auditor firm. So I think you guys have requested RFP for auditing firm, and because pretty close to now is the time that we will, secure an audit date, get it on the calendar, get things rolling that way. So we wanted to go ahead and go out for that RFP for our auditing firm and get that out before us first.
Is that catchy?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna ready for policy.
For policy, we have Mrs. Rotarius, Mr. Eckert, and myself.
The Board of Education may agree to a resignation or retirement at any time after a replacement suitable to the school administration and the board's obtained, provided that the circumstances underlying the resignation or retirement are valid in the opinion of the board and warrant a search for replacement. Luke Forty, special education paraprofessional, has resigned from his position. He was offered a position teaching in another district.
Sounds good.
Moving on to hires, new hires. The Board of Education approves all personnel. With the creation of the new role of attendant secretary at Almont High School, Mr. Spears recommending Mrs. Jessica Geiger for the position. Mrs. Geiger is currently a paraprofessional at Orchard Primary and is excited to join the staff at Almont High School. Mr. Spears is also happy to be recommending Miss Alexia Diaz for the position of paraprofessional. Ms. Diaz comes to us with classroom experience and will be a welcome addition to our special education rooms. The Board of Education can, if chooses, approve the district calendar. Attached is the proposed 2025-2026 district calendar. This calendar is similar to previous calendars and has been discussed and approved by the AEA. The calendar includes an August 25th start and follows the ISD holiday calendar. It also meets all the required hours and days mandated by the states.
Sounds good.
Yes. I buried it. Okay. In regards to curriculum, we will have greater recognition at our Monday night board meeting. That'll be Mr. Bruno. You haven't had enough of him. So Mr. Bruno will be providing an update on OP STEAM, as that has been, of course, definitely a priority for our district. So he'll be providing that update on Monday night.
This will lead us to our second comments and questions from the audience, which can be about anything, not just pertaining to the agenda. Would anybody in the audience like to be recognized at this time?
Yes.
Please state your name.
Hi, I am Nikita. I am a parent to 3 kids in the district, and I'm a kindergarten teacher in the district. If you have been to OP at all, you might have seen me at any of our family events that we host. So if you see the bingo night, that was a big thing that we just had. Or if you are part of our food drive or spirit week that's coming up next week, if you're going to send in one of the lucky grams that we have going on, any of that kind of stuff. I have that, and then I know a few of you know me from just my youth involvement in community projects that we have, that Almont has. So, I love working with kids. It is awesome, it is great. I would not want a different job, but it is getting to a point where it is not super fun to come to work and know that I either have to spend the little tiny bit that I have going to Adam or to try to find Steve, because my classroom doesn't have somebody that I can constantly rely on. Because Adam will be there no matter what. But he also has to do that for the rest of his staff. Like, he can't just do it for me. The issues I have are no greater than the issues that other classrooms are also having. So he's trying, Steve is trying. Steve actually caught me in the hallway and I needed somebody's help there because I have 5 and 6-year-olds and most of them had made their way into the classroom, but I still have an issue in the hallway, and now I have a kid that's not moving. I can't pick him up and carry him. I can't leave him there. I can't leave them there. I'm only one person, and if I leave them there, something's going to happen in there. And then those are more parent phone calls I have to make. I stayed on, it doesn't matter, it's Tuesday. I stayed last Friday for 2 hours talking with a parent about something that if they were in middle school, they would have had these little conversations, but I'm the first one. Like, I'm the one telling them about it. And it's not something that I don't want to do, it's just something that I don't think that amount of time really, I don't think it's really known. And so, I know that other people talk, I didn't get to because my kid was in spelling bee, so I tried, I was in here, looked it out, came back, right when you guys were done. So, I wish that I could speak more, go into it more, but it's just, when you're making decisions, I want you to really, really think about the amount of time it takes as a teacher out of my day when I could be doing stuff like planning STEAM lessons and getting everything out for them, that I can't because I'm on the phone, that I don't have my 15 minutes of recess prep time because I'm in the hallway trying to get a child to put on snow pants, but I can't physically do it for them. I can't make a child do anything. You guys can't, their parents can't, they can't come in. It's those little tiny things where we just need a little bit more support for that. There's so many more things I could say. I could literally be here for hours. You guys have been here for hours. I don't want to keep going in. And it's something that I didn't think I would be very emotional about, but it is. This is my career. This is what I've thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into doing because I love doing it. And we just want to be supported. And not just seen as, hey, this is another budget line item. Oh, this is more money. Oh, this is more money. Oh, this is a bill. Oh, this is, it's a grocery list. And you gotta cut something out because it's something fun. It's that kind of thing. That's it.
Anybody else on the line? I'm just here for support. Any questions or comments from the Board of Education?
Mrs. Smith?
Mr. Burrow?
Just going back to the OP Dean of Students, I know we're not reaching an agreement here tonight, but I just want to make a comment and then maybe have some type of presentation on it. Both presentations between Mr. Bruno and Mr. Shiflett and 2 of the people that Mr. Bruno had speak for him all basically said so the question I have boxed here are the staff properly allocated between the buildings? And that's kind of what they all kind of drove at, hey, the middle school's operating fine, but I'm drowning over here. Mr. Shiflett was saying, hey, I could get out of the high school, no problem. When I go to the OP, Adam's running around the chicken with his head cut off. Nobody in the other buildings is doing that. So I would just ask the question, and knowing that I'm new to the board, knowing we have a newer superintendent, is there somebody that we can shift throughout the entire district to give more support to the OP that may or may not be needed elsewhere? And that's not to say that not every job is important. I think that all of us would agree that if we could put an assistant principal, an OP dean of students, a nurse, 2 behavioral specialists in the OP, we would do it in a heartbeat if the money was there. I think everybody at the board, and I can't speak for them, but I think that's the agreement. But knowing what our finances are as a 3-building district, knowing that both of the presenters and two of the people that spoke also said, hey, the earlier years better impact for interventions than in the high school are like, should we be more focused on making sure that the younger kids have that impact so that there are less problems in the middle school and the high school going forward, knowing that, and I don't know the research, no one put research to it, but if there's more behavioral problems in our OP than there's ever been in the history of the country, like the younger generation, like, should we be putting more resources that direction to make the less problems in the future? And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if you, Ms. Vaughn, you could prepare something for that as an option. I know that with where our finances are, that like signing off a brand new position is going to be a difficult decision to make. But if there was an offset there, I think that there might be a ways that people could buy it.
And again, just a reminder, just the new information just learned today with the 31 AA. This is a real potential where we would not have to touch the general fund.
Right.
It's really about, administratively making a decision of where that person is best fit, if that was, if that were the case, to make, that recommendation of where that person would be best fit for the district. So clearly you heard tonight where one of the positions might be. Now, with that said, I just want to, and I've had recent conversations with board members too. With that said, please understand that we do have other needs. We do have needs. Like right now, we are operating a high school, again, 5 grade levels, without a behavioral specialist or a mental health specialist. That is otherwise, in the middle school, in the middle school and the OP, we do have behavioral specialists. Now, with that said, I've asked the middle school behavioral specialist to spend some time at the high school to kind of make sure that they're checking in and making sure our students' needs are met, right? But we could utilize, of course, I feel like more support at the high school. A whole other conversation another time, right? Right now we have an administrator who's split, an athletic director and a dean of students. Almost the most impossible job probably in school history ever has been, assistant principal, dean, and an athletic director. So that's a whole other conversation. But I just want to make sure that we're, looking at our whole, right, to your point, to our entire district, absolutely. But there's been a gaping hole at the Orchard Primary for as long as I can remember in administration. And that is what's being brought to light, and that's what you heard tonight. And we just, as far as moving forward, we definitely have to make sure if we have, if we can secure funding in 31AA, that there'd be a serious consideration for getting some of that allocated, support, or putting that support over at Orchard Primary as a primary as well.
Mr. Burrow, just as a reminder that we do have some new board members. As a board, we are the what, not the how. So if our what, and Mrs. Von Hellmeyer, is you need to reallocate staff, that's her job to figure out how to do that. So I like that you're giving a different, different idea and stuff like that outside of the box, but you don't want to get into the weeds of telling her to pull this person and pull that person and do that. So if we say we want to see reallocate staff at an administrative level, then she has to figure that out. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just to give just a little bit of history on that, things have been done at OP to assist OP, and I think that everybody here needs to recognize all the principals have not left because of being overwhelmed. One of the first things that we did is when we received a grant, we put a full-time behavioral interventionist at OP. So that was a full-time person in that building helping out. The next thing that we did, because OP had too many bodies in that building, that was when the decision was made to move the 4th grade into the middle school, taking the number down by, I think it was 120 students, and the 8th grade was moved to the high school. As that happened, an 8th grade typically has more discipline issues than a 4th grade. Nothing was ever done to add a position to assist with all that discipline then up at the high school level. So when you look at your high school numbers, they are the greatest numbers, one of the things that I've asked Ms. Bond for, I'd like to see what the discipline issues are in each building. You know, because again, having that information helps her to make that decision where individuals need to be allocated, and she can share that information with us. But I think that it's important that we know that information. I mean, I appreciate all the staff that came forward. When you look at what is happening with the secretaries, I don't think that there's a secretary in any building that is not involved in having to watch kids, because our administrators are busy doing other things. So, you know, if you brought the other individuals in from the middle school and the high school, I think you would be hearing an awful lot from them as well. I just want everybody to be aware of that. And again, you know, bottom line, you know, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. What are we gonna take out if we're gonna put this in? So it's a challenge. And while at the OP, it's getting them on the right track, at the high school level, are they gonna graduate? So it's totally a different set of circumstances, and what becomes the priority. And I'll be honest, I don't have the answer to, you know, what's best. That's where we need to hear from everybody, not just one building, I think. So that was in regard to that. Are we just still on the questions and comments from the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the rest are for future agenda
Okay.
items, so thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from anybody?
Mrs. Smith. Ms. Bond, I can't remember, it may have been with Ms. Ranger. I think she had put together for us a list of like the 11T, 31A, all the different grants that we had and how they were applied and what they could be used for. I don't know if that's still in, I couldn't find it in the drive, so I don't know if that's something that's around. It may be something useful for our new board members and those of us that forget.
Just defining the grants.
What they
showing.
could be used for, that type of thing, and, you know, when they run out, if they run out, just a reminder, if there's that sheet.
I can work
to be
with
done.
Kathy and we can look at that, because I know some of the stuff, we've already touched base today, as a matter of fact, on 31AA, so that's something probably we can put together, just need a little time.
And second, for our budget, the Dean of Students was built in to this budget, so should we move forward with that, it doesn't change that number, it's not going to lower, it's already built in. So we made a decision last June. So to me, it's a decision time to figure out what we want to do, or recommend what wants to be done. And because to me, that's money that we've allocated that we could have used elsewhere. So it could have been for any number of projects, or positions, or whatever, so.
And if I can make a comment, what also is not in the proposed budget though, however, is the additional funding we may get before June 2025, which will totally offset that. I was just notified on our February state aid that we'll be receiving $26,000 for June for 31AA, which will offset a proposed position for April through June.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I do want to say something. One thing that I noticed going through the presentation that Mr. Bruman put together and then just hearing the discussion from the guests tonight, it sounds like we're lacking severely with many support. Like, is it more like, I'm not negating the fact that a dean is needed, but I guess, should a dean role be doing push in and pull out support? Do we need a dean parapros down there? Like, do we both? Like, I just feel, and I don't know the right answer to that, and I don't know how other districts do that, but deans or assistant principals, if those individuals are doing the win, push, and pull out, to me that seems like it's almost taking away from other responsibilities that they could do as an assistant principal or the dean role. So do we need to look at, are we severely understaffed with our parapros, and we need to get that right-sized so that it does help in that area, and if a dean were to go through, I mean, gosh, we probably be rock stars now in that building, or doing better. I'm just wondering. That was, to me, was very clear when I kept reading through his thing, and a good part of that day is push it and pull out, and Mr. Shipley even said he's working with kids all the time and stuff too, and I don't know, if that's, like, what a good chunk of a dean or assistant principal day should be.
And I would need some more conversation
Right.
with Mr. Brown.
That was just one observation, like, do we need to right-size that ship? Is that, where, would that be super helpful?
Because I know he was identifying primary and secondary responsibilities, right, for the position, so.
But
we
now
probably
for
have to-
primary.
Right, so that's what I'd probably want to go back and have some of that discussion of what that would look like.
That's just my one comment about
Okay.
that. And thank you to Kathy and Jason. Thank you both. Thank you enough. No more questions or comments on future agenda items. Ms. Brett?
Mrs. Smith. Just a couple of things. I had asked Mrs. Von Hiltmeyer to get us the high school master schedule with the numbers for the second semester. And if you could include the Michigan virtual numbers and, who's in, fourth hour versus, because I know that I think Mrs. Love ends up doing those Michigan virtual or dual enrollment numbers when we're during the day. So if we could know what those numbers are as well. And then lastly, I know that when Mr. Zimmerman was here last, he had said that there was some coaching positions open. Has he gotten on that? I know that when it's a varsity coaching position, a lot of times they want to do camps and things in the summertime. And they want to be a part of putting their schedule together for the fall of the year if possible. So I'd just like an update on where we stand with that. That'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Any other future agenda items? And I know you had talked previously about strategic plan, so you and I even talked about that. I just want to make the board aware that we are looking at when we start scheduling that.
It's 2026, and we have time, so it'd probably be late spring, early fall, and that is something that maybe too, I know there's a few topics we're going to bring up with Scott Morrell at our March 13th MASD workshop, so that's something that maybe we could ask him if he has a recommendation, like later spring or early fall.
Perfect.
One of the conversations I had with the board members one-to-one is just, again, that was a documented back, that was created years back with a different board, a different superintendent. So it would be nice to, I guess, have a fresh look at our strategic plan for the next 5 years.
I like it.
A lot of what I think we're talking about tonight, so kind of folds into that.
Mrs. Smith?
Mr. Burrow?
I move the Board of Education adjourn the February 19th, 2025 work session meeting at 9:13 p.m.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everybody.